They started almost 7 years ago in a dank dungeon of a basement. They then ascended to an office, and now they have descended back into the basement. The podcast known as
Trapped Under Plastic, the podcast that Bricky put on the map with a guest appearance. Shout out to Bricky for putting us on the map, dude.
Woo, woo, woo. Yeah, Minnesota. It's right up in the middle and the top.
We're back in the basement.
Yeah, different basement.
And we have a third person here with us. Dan, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Hello. Glad to be here.
I want to get something out of the way real quick.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure the title of this podcast is going to be something to the effect of, how did this old man win a gold demon? Is that what it is?
That is, in fact, literally how John pitched this to me.
Would you mind telling us how old you are?
I am 55 years old.
55?
55.
God damn! 55! You seem younger than that.
Double nickels on the dime, baby.
I was preparing to roast the shit out of John right now, but you are legitimately older than me.
I am legitimately older, yes.
Yeah, you have such a young spirit. Like, no cap. Like, 100%.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. It's all the clean living.
Clean living and painting toys in the basement.
Yep. Yep.
Well, I have nowhere to go.
My eyesight is that of a 75-year-old man. But.
Yeah, I've seen those specs you got. They're pretty thick.
Yeah, he can see into the future if he looks up from painting orcs.
Yeah.
He can see next week.
Can't we all, honestly? When you focus on a small little thing, you look up and the world's just like, whoa.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, you guys might be a little bit taken aback, Goody Peepees, by how amazing this set looks right now.
We got in some of ILM and Weta Workshop's best people. Like this was their first collab together. To really pull together they spent a lot of money making this look like a dank half finished basement.
Right. Yeah. And there's like just a random ass mirror over there behind John.
Yeah. I don't know if it's on camera. You just get to see back of my head and the front of my head at the same time.
Which is nice because they can see you have the same level of care the back of your hair as you do the front.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no bald spot back there yet.
Yeah,
yet.
Unlike that one bird that you painted for Capital Palette.
Yeah, I don't paint the back.
Too soon.
Yeah, I don't paint the back. Yeah. I also have a little bit of a spoiler for Dan. This actually isn't Scott's house. This is just a random house we decided to
I'm just dumping stuff in here.
Set up shop down here and quickly threw this camera down here.
Yeah.
The whoever lives here, their Shih Tzus upstairs. So that thing is
going crazy.
Right. We hope that they have a full work day this Friday, or they're gone up to the lake for the weekend,
or else we're doomed.
Yeah, we're gonna be in trouble. It's gonna be a weird conversation if they come in halfway through.
I did scope out the property for like a full week beforehand just to get a feel for their schedule, and I'm pretty sure I got it right.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
I love moving so much that I wanted to do it again. So,
really, if you, I know one of your goals is to just streamline your overhead with this, and I think squatting is a really effective way to do that.
Oh, is it? Do you have experience?
No comment.
All right, let's get into this preamble ramble. My first topic is I hate moving. I feel like I busted my moving nut, moving all my personal house belongings into this house. I was super organized. How I packed boxes was incredibly efficient. Everything was labeled. Everything like went in the room it belonged in. And, we got I'll call it 80% done, like setting up all the personal stuff. We did some renovations. We got a new shed in the backyard. We did some things. And then, I guess mentally I was like, this is it.
Yeah.
It's over.
Right.
We did it. And it's like, nope, round 2, bitch. And I got zero energy left for moving. And so I'm adopting a strategy of chaos, which is just throw shit in a box. Who cares if you can tape it shut? Don't label it and just get it out of the office. Just get it in the basement. I'll figure it out later. This is definitely going to bite me in the ass later.
Yeah, I noticed there's just a bunch of drawers, random drawers, where you took the drawer off the thing and threw it in the back of the van.
Yeah.
And then you put it back in here.
Okay, to be fair, I did that the exact same way on the way into the office because it just makes sense. They're kind of like boxes already.
Yeah, they're boxes with no lids.
Organized already.
You can just shove them back in the shelves. Okay. I respect that.
So there's some level of planning. Like this area is largely, there's not much stuff over here because the first thing I plan to set up is the painting space. And so that's why there's space over here and none over there. But otherwise, total chaos. I have zero energy for this bullshit. but it's got to get done. So
Are we going to take down that whole wall of mirrors when we're done recording today?
yeah, yep. No, I didn't tell you guys, but you are on the schedule for some lifting of heavy things.
I can tell you from owning multiple mirrors of that size, you cannot just get rid of them. My recommendation is to smash them off the wall and put them in your garbage can bit by bit every week. Yes.
Are you being serious?
I'm being absolutely serious. Also, they're on an octagon shape there. There's no easy fucking way to get those off.
And they're probably, I'm guessing there's some liquid nails holding those on the wall, and because those tiny little brackets are not holding those things in place.
Don't tell me this.
Yeah, and they're probably 80 pounds a piece. Those things are heavy as
Tell me
shit.
this.
Seriously, smash them with the hammer. Don't hit it too hard so you go through the drywall
I
behind
think
it.
someone's gonna want to buy these.
No, they're
No.
not. I tried to sell 2 of them on Marketplace and then eventually had them up for free for 2 months. No one ever took them. I smashed them and gave them away.
Yep.
Save yourself the heartache of trying to get them out without breaking them and just break them.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that at least make for some cool video.
Yeah, I mean, that's good B-roll for the video.
And I always have my hard hat, safety goggles, and gloves in my car if I have to go to a project site. So I'm ready to roll, baby. Let's go.
All right.
Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about how Dan's real life relates to what he does in the miniature hobby. So that was just a little sneak peek of Dan likes to go to abandoned houses and break shit, just like that movie I just watched the other day with the guy that played Spider-Man a long time ago. No, it wasn't Tobey Maguire. Jake Gyllenhaal. There's a Jake Gyllenhaal movie. I think it's like 2023 or whatever, and it's like his wife dies in a car accident.
Oh, Nightcrawler?
No, it's not Nightcrawler. It's more recent than that. And like he basically has a nervous breakdown, and he just like starts by disassembling everything, like physical things in his life, and then he just goes to just like destroying things. He volunteers at a construction site and just to break shit.
Oh, okay. Hold on. I need to look this up now. We can move on though.
But that's what Dan does.
Yeah, surprisingly little profit in it.
Yeah.
I just break, especially when the people come home, they're like, we didn't ask you to do this.
But you just said you need a sunroom.
I can just, the flow of this space is all wrong and this wall has to go. And really, I'm doing you a favor by tearing it out.
Yeah, it's north-facing wall. What are you doing? Not getting enough natural sunlight coming in here.
Right. This is Minnesota. We need to take advantage of light where we can.
Exactly. It's as little as we get it. So
Nocturnal Animals? I know his wife dies in that movie.
no, it's not that one.
Roadhouse?
It's like no, not that one.
Wait, Jake Gyllenhaal? There was first of all, I did not know there was a Roadhouse remake.
Dude, yeah,
there was a
it was.
Roadhouse remake with Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah. Look how fucking sexy he is, dude.
He's ripped.
He's ripped.
It's like a one-word name of a movie. It's like
Life.
It's like Life with Eddie Murphy. No, it's not that.
Wildlife.
No.
The Guilty.
No, not The Guilty. It has like the one word has like relation to like breaking things or like unmaking them or something like that.
Ambulance.
Welcome to the Scott Reed's IMDb profiles portion of the podcast.
I'm done.
All right, we'll get there. It's on Hulu right now.
Yeah, that filter. No, we're moving on.
So right before this, we were originally going to record this bright and early in the morning like we usually do. And then I asked the kind gentleman if we could push the recording back a little bit because I had to go to an emergency dental visit. Because apparently the consistency of my teeth has turned into that of Smarties. And they just choose to break whenever they want. So I have had 2 broken teeth in the last 2 weeks. And I was able to get mine patched up this morning. They just spackled it with a bunch of UV resin, and then they used that little black light in my mouth. And this is not a joke. They just do fillings and to like patch teeth. They just use UV resin, and I know this because it smelled and tasted like UV resin. And you may ask, John, what do you know what resin tastes like? Because I know what resin tastes like. And so I think that big plastic miniature companies. They're doing there's a conspiracy to make you think that resin's actually unhealthy for you and you shouldn't use it, shouldn't smell it, shouldn't taste it, shouldn't get it on your hands. They're saying that because they want you to think that it's unhealthy. But the dentists are putting it in your mouth.
What do big miniature companies stand to gain from you not consuming resin?
Then you won't get a 3D printer and you won't print your own miniatures and you'll instead have to buying for
You
$60.
find the
They're saying
material to be
health
so
issue.
you're so frightened for the toxic implications of the resin.
Oh, but we should be drinking it.
There may actually be unknown health benefits of consuming resin that big plastic is keeping from us.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
That's
You
the
could
key to living for forever.
You can make your whole upper row of teeth just one tooth.
Just tooth.
You fill all the gaps, dude.
You should have one gap in the middle, though.
God, you wouldn't have to floss anymore.
Yeah,
Like we have.
Why are you not doing this?
You wouldn't find those fucking floss sticks on the ground in Target parking lots
Yeah,
anymore.
we're solving problems.
Right.
Who
here.
are those people? Who are
Right.
those people that drop the floss sticks in the parking lot?
Well, who's the person walking through the parking lot flossing in the first place?
Right.
I don't know. Apparently, they're better people than me because maybe my teeth wouldn't all be broken. But there wasn't a flossing issue, and because I just went to the dentist from a regular visit like 3 weeks ago, and they're like, "Man, your teeth are great, and your flossing's great." I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah.
And it's everything. They're like, yeah, it's old fillings. I had old silver fillings in the back, and then over time, when you're an old man like Dan and me, eventually those will be compromised, and then your tooth just like says, "Oh fuck it, I worked hard enough," and it breaks.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the old mercury fillings from the 70s and early 80s are not
Yeah, I just suck on
70-year solutions.
I just suck on them like they're gushers in the back of my
Or
mouth.
Smarties. Do they taste fruity as well?
No, they don't, but they're that chalky consistency. I didn't even eat something cool because everyone's like, "Oh, what did you eat?" And I was going to be like, "I just ate buckshot." Because I have eaten buckshot before, and that is terrible to bite into. But it was like a fucking potato chip. It's kettle chips. You know them kettle chips that are so goddamn hard?
Yeah.
What it is.
It was kettle chips, dude.
Should be a warning on that bag.
Pro tip, don't eat kettle chips if you got teeth made of Smarties.
There's probably a lot of other things you also shouldn't eat, like drinking water in general. It'll just dissolve your teeth.
Yep. We learned. Dan, how are your teeth holding up? You got anything good to add to this conversation?
No, my teeth. I thank you for asking. My teeth are in fact holding up well. My wife manages a dental practice, so
You are under
she-
strict scrutiny.
yeah. Well, and she's also in on the conspiracy between
right.
big dental and big plastic. So
Oh, she's telling you to.
again, I don't want to jeopardize her role in the industry by saying too much out loud.
Okay.
Oh yeah, if you need to go as a off the record kind of quotes that we'll blur out your
Yeah,
face. For this
exactly.
part,
Yeah,
you know?
do the vocal distortion, and that'll be the after party, right?
There's nothing wrong.
Secrets of the dental industry revealed.
No one will know it's you either.
Does that mean you get like a key hookup for like the awesome stuff that dental offices have for equipment that
Like Oxy or
No.
Oh.
Well, yeah, but no, I mean like because they have, every time I'm in there, they got great gear that would be perfect for us as miniature painters, like those fucking lights.
So I will say I got an entire set of dental tools that they were just going to toss out because they only last for so long as a sculpting tool, like very early in my miniature painting career when you're young and you have no money to buy like expensive hobby tools. And I said, oh, it'd be really nice to have, I asked Rebecca, like, do you guys ever like have dental tools you just don't use? She's like, oh, all the time. We throw them out all the time. I'm like, start bringing them home. So yeah, I have an entire like range of the things that they use to, fuck up your mouth when you go in for your cleaning as sculpting tools.
They still got plaque all over them and stuff.
Supposedly they were clean before I've never licked them.
Oh, wow.
Well, no, that's not true.
That's not true.
That's absolutely not true. How else are you going to keep it from sticking to the putty?
That's
Right.
true.
Your own saliva.
Dude, nature's lubricant it's the best for all things. Your paintbrush. I got yelled at in a recent video for saying that when I rinse out my paintbrush and then I bring the tip back and you suck out the extra moisture with your water, and I'm like, I'm not eating paint, I'm licking dirty paint water. And they're like, that's multiple comments like, that's the most disgusting thing, you don't know what's in that water. And I'm just like, this is the life we choose to live.
We at my work, we have a number of very talented artists who work there, and there's a woman who's an incredible watercolor artist. And after work one day last week, she did a seminar like how to watercolor paint.
Oh,
So I sat in on that, and she was nice enough to bring like paper and paints and brushes for everybody. And as I'm like working with it, and she knows what I do, she's actually super excited about miniature painting and has a lot of questions for me about that.
Cool.
But I told her, you have no idea. It said, these are your brushes. So I am completely respecting the fact that they are your brushes, but you have no idea how hard I'm working to not put these in my mouth.
How would you say to that?
She's like, oh no. She's like, you don't want to eat watercolor pigments. I'm like, I probably don't, but I would if they were my brushes.
Right. You're like, oh, come on. If you've had McDonald's once in the last 6 months, you're worse off than licking your brushes every day. So.
You've consumed a fair amount of cobalt pigment already.
This is not medical advice.
Because the other thing with the dentist is they have the amazing sexy gogs too.
Yeah.
They're like $1,500 sexy gogs, which is like some of the high end ones, like the ones that I got from the company out of Madison, and there's a couple other companies that they work in the hobby industry. They're all based on the dental ones, and they basically source them, and because they're not through the medical industry, you can see the actual cost of these things being like a quarter of what they are if they're sold to a doctor's office or a dental office. And so I'm just like, man, they've had these amazing glasses the whole time.
And that's if there's one piece of advice I wish I had gotten earlier or that I had taken earlier, use magnifiers, the sexy gogs, before you need them. Yeah. Because it will prevent a lot. I didn't start using magnifiers until about 5 years ago. And once I did, it was just the level of eye strain and headache I would have after like a long painting session just completely went away.
Yeah.
And it's like, God, why didn't I start using these, in my 30s? Yeah. Why did I wait until I was almost 50 to start using them?
Right. And I think a big misconception is that the sexy gogs are there because your eyesight is bad. And that can help somewhat, but it's more of the fact that the magnification. And so you can simply see the things, and you can, as long as your brush control is also there, you can execute on things that you simply could not, because your eyes can't magnify 2x, 3x, 4x to do that.
I find my issue with the goggles is that I can't find one that is right for how close I hold my miniature to my face. So maybe this is just a reaction to me not using magnification for a long time, but like I generally have my chair very low, so my table's very high, and so I can like hold the thing right in front of my face without bending my back at all. And so I have actually also bought some very expensive diopters, magnifiers, loops, whatever you want to call them. And like I was in constant contact with the company, switching out lenses, trying to find the one that had the right focal distance. And I couldn't find it. Like after like 3 swap outs, it just like, I felt like I had to do this, like to a certain degree.
Too far away.
Interesting.
Yeah. And you feel like you lose control when it's too far away.
I want to be tight. I want to be like right in that bubble, and I couldn't get the right one. I know it probably exists, but I've been struggling to find it.
Yeah. When I started with mine, it was, she recommended between 16 and 18 inches.
Oh, fucking way, bro.
Way. And I'm like, let's do on the low end. And she was like, okay, we'll do between 15 and 16. And I'm like, I feel like my arms are on the other side of the room when I'm painting with this.
Yeah.
And eventually I had it pulled into about 7.
I was gonna say 6, 8 inches is where I think I want to be.
Probably about where I am most of the time.
Yeah.
And then the issue is for those fancy ones is, so their magnifiers are like little loops. And so they're like a barrel, right?
Yeah.
And the problem is when you're in tight and they're in tight and the light's in tight, that barrel, you have all the light is being sucked out because you're looking through an area where no light's getting in. And so I felt like I needed to have quite a bit more light, even in a room, even when we're painting for video, we're so lit up. I mean, I'm running 4 lights that I paint with, and even then it feels too dark. And that's what it's come back to with those expensive ones for me, is like the cheap ones, because they're just a little slip that's basically like
the little X-Men visor-y thing.
Yeah, Cyclops visor. That there's no light is being pulled away as you're like looking down a scope. It's the same thing. It's just looking down a scope. So I was just like, oh shit.
So do you use expensive ones, or do you use?
I've gone back to the cheap ones.
Wow.
Yeah, I just use I use the cheap ones. I'm also so I wear contacts to correct my vision for like my nearsightedness. But again, 55, so I've got the cheaters that I wear. And when I first put the sexy gogs on, I was like, okay, this is great. And it's like, oh wait, I can't see my palette anymore. So now I'm literally wearing my cheaters, and then I have my sexy gogs balanced on top of that. Yeah, I look fucking awesome. Like my wife walks by and sees me painting, and she's just like, Yeah. You're looking good today, baby.
That's the man I married.
Self-deprecation is very welcomed in this podcast.
Right. Yeah. Guys, I had a little bit of oopsie poopsie the other day I wanted to share on the podcast. And so I'm painting this bust for Nova Open, a Spira Mirabilis bust. We'll show it in a little bit. But you know the bottles that have the twist tops, either the like Proacryl paints and then like the golden high flows, where it's the top is shaped like
a pot.
Yeah, it's shaped like a crayon.
Yeah.
And so you twist it. The problem is like if you use it, put some on your palette, and then you twist it closed right away, it all like gloobs up.
Yeah.
So what I do to prevent that is after I use it, I leave it open on the table for a while. So then it just slowly goes back down.
Okay.
30 to 60 minutes later, I close it up. Your paint's not dried out.
Right.
Well, sometimes I forget to close those. And earlier this week, I've been using Fluo. I've been using the Fluo Yellow and the Fluo Orange on this bust. And I went to shake them up to put more on my palette. Both of them were open from the day prior. And so I do the old over the shoulder. And there's just like a splatter of Fluo Orange and Yellow all over my desk, all over me, all over the ceiling, all over the carpet.
Oh my God.
Some on the dog. He was laying behind me.
Oh my God.
So it rode up. And I just like, the first thing I look to is the model. And I'm like, thank God. The model's to the right. Like, fuck my carpet, the ceiling, whatever. I'm in this painting studio. I don't give a shit. But I was like, oh no. And I look behind me. I'm like, oh God. So I did what every man does in this situation. When you see it's on your carpet, you go over and you got a sock on it, and you just rub it with your sock in the bottom of your
bro,
foot.
you did not do that.
Yeah, I did. And it mostly came right up.
No fucking way.
I knew exactly where this was going when you said that.
I've got different socks on today. Otherwise, I would show you.
No way.
Because it's all neon orange. No, because it absorbs too.
Yeah.
Because I got the kind of carpet that is supposed to be like I don't know, it was a fancy
anti-stain,
carpet. Yeah, anti-stain and stuff. So it doesn't like just like absorb in like cotton, whatever. Okay. So it just like sucked into my foot.
You used your sock?
Yeah, dude, why not?
You got paper towel right next to you, man.
Yeah, I know, but sock I didn't even have to do anything. I just go.
But now you got to take
like
your
an eraser.
sock off. Now one of your socks is fluo orange.
I know.
Like if you didn't have paper towel right next to you, I'd maybe give you some leeway. But this is ridiculous.
No, it was. I didn't have to like bend over and rip off a paper towel.
and now you got some deer hunting socks.
Exactly. Yeah, I can be seen in the safely in the environment. So the thing is like I would have had to waste at least one paper towel. I didn't waste anything. I didn't create.
You are a saver.
I saved the earth.
You do. Yeah.
I saved the earth a little bit because
Yeah.
I can still use these socks.
How many sessions, like how many minis, whatever is easier to count, do you use a single like folded paper towel?
It's a scary amount.
A scary amount.
Like a single paper towel is like a month.
Wow.
It's like a month.
Fuck. I toss that shit all the time.
I have one of my worst like anxiety moments in the hobby is when I'm doing anything with 3D printing because you have to use so many paper towels for 3D printing.
For what?
Because when you're taking the build plate off when it's done printing, and you kind of got to wipe around there and like hold the paper towel underneath so you don't drip resin everywhere. And then when I pop my miniatures off, I pop them onto paper towels. So then it absorbs the resin. You can just like put it on a cookie sheet or whatever. And it's like, great. Pretty soon you got a fucking little pool of resin there. Nothing that you put in there is going to be not covered in the shit. And then I go and I wash them and then I bring them out and then I put them on new paper towels. It's like 6 or 8 paper towels every time I 3D print something. And I feel so terrible. I feel so terrible.
There's definitely a better way to do that, I think.
It probably is, but
yeah. Because we have the same setup, I believe, right now.
Yes.
So I just take so first of all, I scrape the resin off of the
I do
thing. I do that.
But that is not a well-designed machine.
No, it's not.
The hay gear is not.
That's one of the biggest blind spots of that thing is that just so people understand the build plate is perfectly parallel with the earth. And so nothing drains off of it. It's not angled or anything. There's no holes in it. And so it just sits on top of the build plate on the reverse side. And so the moment you unscrew it, and take it off and angle it the slight amount, this waterfall of resin comes off of it.
Yeah.
And if you're not immediately above the vat, which is like 10% larger than the plate,
It is.
you
Yeah.
get it everywhere.
You get it everywhere.
So you need to scrape it off first. And then I just pop it straight into the cleaner from there.
Well, how do you get the miniatures off?
With a spatula.
You pop them in. You go bloop bloop bloop.
Yeah, so I put it over the big tub of isopropyl.
Yeah.
I like hold it on the edge and I scrape them right into there,
That's probably smarter. Yeah.
which, it does splatter a little bit and maybe people might have issue with that. Then I clean them, use the thing to drain it, let them sit up top for a little bit so they kind of evaporate, and then I put on paper towel. So like there's some ISO left, but I'm certainly not using multiple a session. Maybe one.
My worry is going directly from build plate to the ISO is there's so much extra liquid resin that's going to get in that ISO that it's going to gunk up quicker. But it's
Do you have
probably
like
not
two
that
cleaning
much.
stations?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, so that's my thought on that.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. Yeah, all they need to do, because like Frozen has this, is a slight pitch to the top of the build plate, or it's actually the bottom of the build plate, but it goes in upside down.
Right.
It's a slight pitch, like kind of like the roof of your house. So after the printing is done and the plate rises up, it will slowly drip down. And then, like you said, the size of the vat underneath that build plate is like 10 mils all the way around.
Yeah.
Even if you scrape it around, I use like old magic card and I just like scrape it around to pull it off to fall off the side. Even then, sometimes it drips outside.
Yep.
It's like, you fools.
Yeah. Dan, are you a big 3D printer?
You know what? I do not own a 3D printer. No, and honestly, just hearing this conversation reinforces that because it is a hobby unto itself.
Yeah, it can be.
And that's great. The people who do it, I know enough people who have them that if I need something printed, I can get that done.
Yeah.
But I have limited space in my studio.
For sure.
And limited time to take on yet another endeavor. So I would rather focus my time at the painting desk than futzing around with technology.
Yeah. I think we're getting to a place with 3D printing where, depending on the kind of personality you have, you definitely can just plug and play. But the space is an issue, the
Ventilation.
the cleaning, the ventilation, like all.
Although we did just discuss that that's a big lie.
Oh, right. We can just straight up consume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just huff the fumes while I'm painting and it makes me a better painter.
Yeah, my brother.
It might explain your teeth.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I'm 87% cancer the inside of my body right now, so don't worry. It's concerning.
It just got really real.
Yeah. I went to New York City for my 12th year
nice.
marriage anniversary with my wife.
Congratulations.
Did all the fun things we like to do. We got to see a monologue by John Krasinski called Angry Allen. It's about a man being slowly red-pilled.
Is John Krasinski performing it?
He did.
Oh, wow.
And I got to meet him.
Oh, wow.
I got a picture with him. He came out after the performance and literally chatted with everyone who was there waiting for him, which was like such a fucking awesome thing for a celeb of his status to do. So I got a picture with him. Got to congratulate him on his incredibly intense and emotional performance. I realize why I don't watch dramas, because they're amazing and they like lend you perspective on something very often, but they're like I don't know, eating an incredibly sweet treat. I can only do it every once in a while, and then I got to go back to like watching like trash TV or like B movies or something, because I can't take it. It's like it's so intense,
Can't live in that like uncomfortable seriousness.
Yeah, uncomfortable. Yeah, it was definitely uncomfortable. Yeah. Anyways, it's really good.
Wow.
Excellent.
So did you call him Jim Halpert?
I did not make any reference to The Office. I figured he might like be so sick of that.
Probably very tired of that at this point.
Sure, this is the first time you've heard this, Jim. What's Dwight really like?
Yeah. Just make some stupid Office joke. Yeah. I did not. I resisted the urge. We had great pizza. We had. You guys ever heard of Katz's Deli ever?
Yes, I have.
I've never been there because my wife's not a huge fan of like massive sandwiches. We went there. We got a matzo ball soup. We got a pastrami sandwich, and it was fucking amazing. It was amazing.
Incredible.
I was going to ask you if you got the pastrami.
I did.
I watched enough Food Network to know that that's what you get when you go there.
Absolutely.
Oh, fun. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So, yeah, it sounds like a fun trip.
Absolutely.
I was just out in Seattle. My son lives out in Washington State. He's 23, and he actually it's a complicated story, but he works at this remote mountain village.
Sick.
You can't get there by car.
Wow.
You fly into Seattle, you rent a car, take a bus out to a place called Lake Chelan, which is about 3 hours east of Seattle. and then you get on a boat. And you take a boat up Lake Chelan, which is this long, narrow lake between two mountain ranges. And then you get on an old school bus and go up this winding road to this. It's an abandoned mining village that in the 1970s was donated to the Lutheran Church, and it's now a retreat center.
Okay.
So it's loosely affiliated with the Lutheran Church, but it's really just more of a nature and education retreat center. My son went there in college for a J term, fell in love with it, and after graduation, he spent the last 2 years working there.
Okay.
So he's the head chef out there.
Wow.
And
awesome.
Yeah, just loves it. So went out there, visited him, just amazing place, off the grid, like no internet, no phone, anything. Spent a lot of time sort of sketching out concepts for next year's Golden Demon, thinking about what I want to do, reading, threw myself into my first Brandon Sanderson book, and I have capital T thoughts on that. Again, went on a lot of hikes, did a 20-mile, 4,000-foot hike with my son and his girlfriend, which is fantastic. And then we went back into Seattle, and when I kind of set up my schedule to come out there, he texted me and said, "Oh, I just looked, there's a last-minute late night cancellation at this restaurant that I really would love to work at one day called Canless. It's obscenely expensive. Do you want to take me?"
At least he gave you the upfront.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm like, sure. I only get out there to see you a couple of times a year. So yeah, this sounds like a great time. It was just me. My wife couldn't make this trip. So it was just me and Oscar out there. And I'm sure Seattle listeners are aware of this place. It's an institution. But it was like the stereotype of what fine dining is like on the Bear or the cooking shows. Mm-hmm. Oh. Like every moment from when we walked in, we just felt completely like personalized and taken care of. We got there early and we're just chatting with the bar. We just grabbed a seat at the bar waiting for our table, and incredible drinks. The bartenders were great conversationalists. It's also really surreal. You will experience this one day, watching your adult child carry on adult conversations with people. Yeah. And it's kind of like, God, you seem like really smart and cool. Like, can I hang out with you? Like, am I cool enough to hang out with you?
How'd you turn into this?
Right. Exactly.
What's it mean?
Exactly. But my son just mentioned to the bartender that he was the head chef, and kind of talking about what he did. And then during our meal, our server comes over, and, she's, and says, I understand that, and to my son, I understand that you're in the industry. Would you like a chance to tour the kitchen and meet Chef James?
Whoa.
Right. So we got to go back in the kitchen, and my son got to talk with the head chef, and maybe this is something they're playing up now because of like the current, high-end cooking TV shows, or maybe it's something they've always done. But when we walked in, the head chef says, "Guests in the kitchen," and simultaneously, like all 40 people back there go, "Chef!" So just like right out of the TVs.
That's incredible.
It was an incredible experience. Hands down, best meal I've had in my life. Not only the experience, but the food. It's this incredible mid-century building overlooking the Puget Sound. So great view. That was a wonderful both dining and travel experience.
Awesome, dude.
Well, I know my family were planning on a trip out to the Pacific Northwest, so I'll be sure to let you know when we're there, Dan, and maybe you can stop on over to buy me dinner too.
Canless, right?
Canless, yes, Canlis. It's been there like 70 years. Multiple James Beard wins. Seattle doesn't have a Michelin star guide, so there's not a Michelin star restaurant. But yeah, multiple James Beard awards, and just an incredible experience.
Wow. Okay, that's awesome.
I only have one follow-up question with all your great story, Dan. How does your son feel about living in a cult? Does he like it?
So it's funny you say that, because he's wrapping up that job in September. So he's been there 2 years. And he basically said, yeah, they don't let people stay here more than 2 years because they don't want to turn into more of a cult than it already is.
Okay.
It is. Everybody who works there is 23 or 65.
Yep. Check.
You're either right out of college or you are retired and you've come back to work there. So yeah, he is very aware of it, and he's loved his time there, but he is ready to deprogram himself.
That's a healthy outlook that he's seen what the red flags on, and I'm sure it sounds like they have their own like system set up so it doesn't turn into that, but that's how they start.
Yes.
Remote mountaintop villages.
Yep.
You get one old person in charge. It's like, oh, by the way, guys, Jesus talked to me last night when I was sleeping.
Everyone put on your velour jumpsuit and take a cup.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, we gotta hit that comet as it goes through the Earth's atmosphere. We gotta get it right out of here. Woo! I don't have a good transition from that.
Well, with the end of the Preamble Ramble, we'll get into our first TUP Partner segment. Shout out to Monument Hobbies and everything they do for our hobby in general. One thing I love about Monument is it's such a personal company. They're so like involved in the community that they're in. When I was there visiting, they were doing their live stream. That's something they do all the time, chatting with their customers, getting their feedback, employing it in their product. So I don't see any company doing it better than Monument. Check them out.
Next up, we've got Game Envy, our choice. I don't know if Dan, do you use a Game Envy wet palette? Oh, no.
You guys are going to roast me so hard.
Yeah, because you don't use a Game Envy
I use
wet
a
palette.
red grass.
Oh, Game Envy is one of our sponsors, and also so is Redgrass. So that's okay.
Okay.
But we're talking about Game Envy
Well,
right now.
I know your guys' thoughts on the red grass wet palette.
That's why we love Game Envy wet palettes. Game Envy. Kit and Co are out at Gen Con as right now. Probably just came back from when this episode is going live. They were pretty excited to do that. Every time you go to a convention and they're there, you get to meet the people that a small team that are passion based, and everything that they create is based on what they feel and their experience and their feedback from the hobby community. So it's put out because of the things they've seen that for improvements in the hobby. So check them out.
Yeah, and last on this list for our first TUP Partner segment is Cobalt Keep. Everyone knows Cobalt for their awesome magnetic bases, but they also have 1,000,001 different accessories that work with those magnet bases, one being the clear acrylic display boxes that they have that come in a variety of sizes for single 32mm figures and also giant units as well. They're great for travel. They're great for displaying your work. They're great for gifts too. When I painted a model for my little nephew, he's not great at handling miniatures. I don't trust that kid with my paint jobs. So I put it inside a box so he can't touch it. But it's great for gifts as well. Check out their website for all the other accessories that they have that work with their magnet bases.
Let's move on to a hobby update. And because Scott's got the biggest, longest list on his hobby update, we're going to start with him. Scott, what have you been doing in the hobby?
Whole lot of nothing. Thanks for calling me out, John. It's deserved. I understand. Yeah.
And you certainly don't have an excuse.
No, yeah. I feel bad because I feel like I do have a valid excuse, but I also feel like I'm not like hustling as much as I could be,
It's
like,
summertime. You got a brand new house.
I know.
So,
Your anniversary.
Yeah.
Let's unpack that for a second.
Okay.
Right?
Let's unpack it.
Because there's a lot said about the culture, especially you guys being in the content mines.
Yeah.
Slaving every day in the content mines. And
pickaxe.
But even those of us, living down in the village, see what's going on the socials between Instagram and various Discords that we're in, and you see how much people are producing.
Yeah.
And you feel this pressure, like even myself as somebody who doesn't do this for a living, who does it as a hobbyist, as a passion project. Like I think about what I've produced since Adepticon. And like when you guys invited me on the show, I looked at what I've done since Adepticon. It's like, oh, fuck, I feel bad. Like, have I painted enough since Adepticon? Do I need to try to crank out 3 models before I go on the show just to make it look like I've been working hard since Adepticon? I'm like, no, that's stupid.
Yes, Dan, you needed to. It's part of your.
We're actually pretty upset with
that's actually why I got to do the demo worker in your house after. that's my penance. Yeah. I've got a job. I'm traveling for work, traveling for family stuff. Certainly been spending time at the table, but have I been spending the 40 to 60 hours a week I was spending during Golden Demon season? Of course not. That you don't have time for that, or you don't need to do that.
Right.
So I think sometimes just letting go of that need to feel like I've got to be keeping up with some imaginary number is important. And so what I'm saying, Scott, is forgive yourself.
Thank you. That's a healing comment, honestly. Yeah. I think last time I moved into my office, I spent like a month, maybe even a month and a half making it perfect. And it was really easy to do because there were giant cubes, of rooms. And I did make it really nice and make it really effective for the exact videos that I wanted to make. And so now I have a bit of more of an awkward shape, this very long kind of L looking thing. I have a bunch of furniture that I bought to fit into a different space than this one. And so immediately Scott Brain starts, doing what it does. And it's like, I'm trying to min-max everything about what I have in this space. And it's just so much to like think about all at once, and like work needs to happen. Like Amber needs to have a desk so she can ship out stuff from the web store, and like I need to start making painting videos at some point. And so I think instead of like spending like a month or a month and a half, like making the perfect space, I'm going to set up my painting area and my B-roll area. And I'm going to make a video, and then I'm going to spend 3 more days working on the space. And I'm going to make a video, so I'm going to like kind of like, do it in a more graduated way as opposed to doing it all now and then going right into the video stuff, just so that I don't like spend forever obsessing over the perfect space and the perfect setup.
Sometimes situations like these, whether it's you goody peepees at home or Scott in this situation, it's an excuse for you to get inspired by the change. And I'm immediately thinking like, there's a fun video idea of you putting together a minimal painting desk and doing a video saying like, these are the things that are my must-haves and how I set them up and why they're important. I don't have my full place down here done yet, as you can all see, and you do a little tour and you show these things. And this is why I started with this, and this is what I think I would recommend that you start with if you're new to the hobby, or what's most important. Like, boom, there's a video, and it ties into the current situation of your life. And you can kind of create a small series of, as you're building this out, how that kind of relates to the hobby and how each of us can relate to that. So I've found when I've had situations that have put me in a position of a pinch or a struggle, or I feel like, oh no, I don't have the time to do this plus my regular schedule, you try to find a way to mix them together. And I think people will relate to that, just like they'll relate to this awesome set.
Yeah, that's probably true. It's funny how you mentioned a minimal hobby desk. I have a hobby desk video planned. I have a plan to use a sit stand desk with that big ass door and a couple of other exciting features, but it is anything but minimal. But I'm excited about it. It's going to be a different way for me to paint that just further supports how I want to like hold my body and like not bend my back and stuff like that. So I'm excited to show you guys that, but it's not going to be super simple.
Dan, what about you? Did you actually paint something, or were you just hedging a minute ago to come up with the point that you also didn't paint anything?
No, I have actually painted some things since Adepticon. We're shortly after Adepticon every year. There's an online competition called the Olden Demon. I apologize, I can't remember who it is that runs that every year. But the rule is it has to be a model from before the year 2000. That produced by Citadel.
Okay.
So I have this, and I'll get pictures into your editor, but this old Chaos Dwarf Beastmaster from 1987.
Dude, the animal pelt on his head or
right?
whatever it is.
He's wearing the little dog hat. Yeah, the little dog hat.
Yeah.
I went through my giant box of old metal miniatures that I have in the basement that I never touch anymore because there's just so many better models out there now.
Sure.
And found that guy. I'm like, oh, this guy's just kind of adorable. And I actually vividly recall buying that model. Before I went to college, I spent 4 years in the Marine Corps, and I was stationed in San Diego. And I actually remember riding, because I didn't have a car, like, just out of boot camp, got no money. But I remember riding my bike up this big ass hill in San Diego to a neighborhood called Hillcrest and going to a small local gaming store. And that was where I bought my first Warhammer miniatures.
Wow, cool.
So I remember buying that guy, and then he just sat in a box for 30 odd years. And so pulled him out. It was a fun little project. And, a couple of things dawned on me. First of all, I think people, sometimes rightly, sometimes not, give the old Citadel models a lot of shit. Well, that's actually one of the things I really appreciate about what Louise does at Rogue Hobbies is this real like love for vintage Citadel stuff. But as I actually got in and started painting it, and you see it with, quote unquote, modern painting techniques applied to it, it's like, oh, okay, those Perry brothers are actually pretty good at this.
Yeah.
Like they actually sculpted some pretty sweet models. And yeah, it's a little quirky and it's a little weird like Warhammer was back then.
Yeah.
But that's also some of the fun of Warhammer. It's, you know, some of that's been lost over the years. It's gotten leaned much more into the grimdark, which I understand. Like grittiness is great. But it was a really fun project and just a nice palate cleanser after the grind that is Golden Demon.
Right. There are some challenging things about old models that just are difficult because of the hand sculpted nature, like doing things like chainmail, for instance, is like difficult and very, very assisted by the fact that you can do it digitally now. But you're right. There is a certain amount of character and also just like a certain amount of like the right size proportions for hands and stuff like that. That are just like very, very nice and comfortable to paint.
Yeah, I agree. And it's so funny how that your skill and kind of adapting the skills that you've developed for a modern painting style really have aided bring this model to a higher level. Because I think a big part of it was at the time, you were also restricted by how far the art had come,
Right.
And how even the tools and the paints and all that kind of stuff, there was a lot of hamstringing that was being done. And so then we usually tie that to the model itself. And this is beautiful. This is so cool. It's so fun. I love he's got like some kind of a gnoll or a dog hat on.
Yep.
And you have the fur texture, so it really comes to life as it's actually like the hide of the animal. So I love this.
Yeah.
I love this guy.
And he came with 2 little chaos dogs. So he's like the unit. I actually found the ad from White Dwarf from like 1988 or whatever that for that guy.
That's awesome. Let's keep the Golden Demon stuff for the main topic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, more stuff.
Yeah, I just brought a couple of things that I've been working on. And then the other thing, one of the best classes that I took at Adepticon is I took Andy Wardle's face painting class, and he gave us this model. It's from his bust from their Kickstarter, and I'm doing this Sunday morning at 8:00. Golden Demon Awards are in like 6 hours. I slept maybe 3 hours the night before because when I was getting ready to go back, when I finally said, okay, I got to go back to my room and go to bed, Dan Malson comes over and says, so late night commander? But Dan, I got to go to bed. He's like, it's just one game. It's like, oh, God damn it. Okay.
Just one.
Yeah. Okay. Let me
in.
roll up my sleeve.
Yep. But that's what the conventions are
exactly.
for, getting together and having fun and all that kind of stuff.
So I probably wasn't necessarily doing my best work in the room at the time. So I walked away with it and I had a good start on it, but I got home and looked at it and was like, I want to finish this to the level that I know I can. So this has been a fun little, when I just have half an hour to chip away at something, just sit down at my desk and do some more work on that. So that was a really fun project to finish. I'm really happy with how it came together. I don't do a lot of busts, so it was really fun to push myself in that.
What was the best or the most impactful like tip or thing you learned in that class?
I think really how the volumes on a face, how you work to emphasize the volumes on a face that makes sense with the human face, with the features at that scale, right? Some of the cheats that you can use at a smaller scale don't really translate. So how you have to, especially around the eyes, like how much work on the eyes and knows how critical that is. And, Andy said one of the best ways to really internalize that as you're working is pull up black and white portraits, photographic portraits of people, because you get these high contrast, highlight value photos that really overemphasize those features. So that was a really great tip. And even though I was working this at home, I was just going on Getty Images and pulling up, photos of black and white portraits of female models, which was great for that. And then I was going to finish it out. And then I remembered that I backed the Kickstarter and I'm getting the full bust of this from the Kickstarter. And I thought, I'm not fucking painting that hair and fabric twice. So I'm going to finish the face and call it done.
Okay, cool. It's an incredible paint job. It looks really good. Like whatever he was teaching in that class combined with whatever skill you already have, resulted in a wonderful looking model despite the sleep deprivation.
Yeah.
It's good. It's really good.
Yeah, you should just finish this head and then pop this head on the bottle when you get the rest of it. And then you get the unpainted head for later. here. That's what I would do. You already done all this, and this looks
God
amazing.
damn it, John. See, this is why I'm here.
Yeah. Pop this on.
Life hacks.
You don't have to do the head twice because she's amazing. I really like how the subtle warmth of the lips with still fitting into the color scheme around the rest of the face, so it doesn't feel like cheesy lipstick.
Right, exactly.
There is that warmth and the bit of the more natural tones because she's not wearing makeup or anything, but she still has a very feminine look, which is very hard to pull off, to be very subdued in the extra tones on a female face, which is already very smooth and all the lines and everything's very gradual, and you have to be very delicate with it. So really, really well done.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
It's also a nicely sculpted model,
Oh, it's such a great design.
It's always helpful when the sculpt of the face has all of the volumes that you want to accent anyways, like the area under the eyebrow and above the eyebrow and like this area and like this little area, like this. So it's helpful when models kind of aid you in that way.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's basically it. And I've been doing some gaming models for some tabletop stuff, but
Some
we don't
Warcrow
need to.
stuff?
Yeah, Warcrow stuff, which I know John's going to talk about.
Yeah, we painted the same elf archer from Warcrow. They have a new faction that are elves, and I really like the sculpts of those. They're very unique. There's a wide variety of them, but each of them is like dynamic. They tell their own story. They're really cool. It doesn't feel like I would get bored by painting 10 of them because there's enough uniqueness to them. And so I painted one of my favorites. I'll let Scott grab him out there. And this was just kind of like a quick speed paint of understanding just like applying punchy colors. And there was actually, I think it was a bit of Scott soaking in on me over time of like how he paints elves with so many interesting variations of green. And I didn't even realize I was doing it until I was about halfway through the model. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is totally like I've learned from Scott, and it helped me in my decision making, and it was really, really fun. I would not have approached him like that. I would have put other more tans, more desaturated instead of just exploring greens that way.
Right.
And I had a lot of fun in a real quick paint job. It was like 2 hours, but it was just like getting maximum punch on that skin and using vibrant colors to just knock them out quick. And it was a lot of fun.
So I'm looking at both models right now by Dan and John, and I feel like their skin tone is incredibly similar. But like also just due to the fact that you're both using a lot of variations of green, like even the tree branch you're using has like a lot of green in it as well, even though it's mostly a kind of a brown color. They kind of feel like they belong in the same world a little bit. Like I kind of like my elves to look different, have different shades of green, like within the same unit and the same army and stuff like that. And so for me, this is working really well.
Yeah, they're close enough where they could be cousins, but they're
kind of
not boring, not all the exact same color over and over on every model.
Right, but this is cool.
Yeah, well, and because this is just tabletop stuff for I actually do play Warcrow. I've got a buddy who's a longtime Corvus Belli kind of community guy, and he got me into the game, so we throw it on occasionally, and I really like the Wood Elf faction. But I don't like document the colors I use when I'm doing army stuff because nobody has time for that.
Yeah.
So when I go back to do another one, I'm like, oh, what greens did I use? Yeah, I think it was these 4. It's close enough.
Right.
Yeah, no one wants to do administrative work, right?
No, not if you don't have to.
Yeah.
If competition's a different thing, but if you're just cranking out tabletop stuff, like, who gives a shit?
Yeah, and that's part of my story for my second model here is I'm painting the bust of King of Thule by Spira Mirables, and this is the first Spira model that I've painted. I've painted something sculpted by Lucas Pina before, but it was as part of just I need to break off the Band-Aid and enjoy one of my favorite sculptors on the planet. And with a short time frame before Nova, my goal was to have this for a Capital Palette competition, but not stress myself out over hundreds of hours like I do for Golden Demon, and to push myself in something that I probably even shouldn't have, a really dramatic lighting scheme where he's sitting right next to a window at sunset. So there's going to be even more oranges and reds and purples brought in on that warm side. And help fuzz out the lines of the window around him, and then have a cool side on the other so we can get more depth around the model and it just doesn't fade into nothing. But we're working on the warm side to start, and these models are so fun. I'm using a size 5 which is a big brush.
Big brush.
But it's what I've used for this whole thing. But when you've got a high quality synthetic, it's just like it still gets to as sharp of a tip as your size 0 or size 1.
Yeah.
It just has a bigger body. What I found with that is like you just kind of have, it gets fat, and that can get you in trouble when you're trying to get into narrow areas because the width of those bristles gets wider, so you can't just kind of get in there with surgical precision.
Right.
But most of the time with a bigger model, a bigger scale, or a bust, you don't have too many of those areas.
Yeah.
And so I've just had a lot of fun, and I just threw some colors on the palette. I'm messing around with the new second wave, the P3 paints that are, I think by the time this episode goes live, they will just have finished up their Game Found thing, but campaign, but you should be able to still do late backer if you're interested. I'm really enjoying the colors for that. And I have not been stressing out about the recipes because what I usually do, and like what I did for Golden Demon, is I'd paint each area to 80% completion. So like with Vizek, I painted all of his skin to 80% completion. Then I moved on to the cloak, or then I moved on to the whatever, right? For this, I realized pretty quickly, I'm like, I'm just going to do that for the skin first. And I'm like, I need to see this whole scene together first. So I blocked in colors, did really basic blends and basic understanding of where the light would be and how it's kind of change over the model. But I'm like, I need color on everything. And now I'm like jumping around a lot to pull up an area. Oh, that area is now not where it needs to be. And I found that I'm like, I don't remember what colors I used 2 days ago for the red. I'm going to come back in, and I'm not going to stress about it too much if it's not exactly, because sometimes when you do that, you're actually adding more depth of color and more interest, or you have a happy accident and something happens, and it kind of comes to life. So this one it stresses me out because all the stuff with those lights is scary, but I'm just kind of like plodding my way through it. I'm going to keep chugging in whatever mode of finished he is by the time Nova hits us at the end of August. That is what I'll bring. So
I have some questions.
Yes.
So you were using yellow fluo and orange fluo on this.
Mm-hmm.
What were you using them for?
I used those on the warm side as a slight mix-in for every time I built up highlight for any surface.
Both of the colors?
Not always. Like on his beard and his hair, it's just the yellow. Sometimes I'm a little worried, and that like the fluffy cuff around his cloak, again, just the yellow, because I'm worried about it pulling away from the natural color too much, because I'll be using filters of warm colors over the top, but I want the core tone to still read as what the color is. And I'm worried if I go too much orange too quickly, it won't read as the color, because it's tricky, because he's got that white kind of collar, floofy collar. He's got a white beard and hair, and he's got a warm white trim on his stuff. And I wanted each of those to feel different, yet they're fairly close, especially that collar is more of a cold, and same with the beard.
It's tough to do that kind of subtlety in miniature painting, because everyone's always preaching like overdoing something. And so to have 3 different color temp whites all being influenced by the same orange sunset, it's like, yeah, it's going to be tough to have that read, but I feel like this is the environment for it to read well in, right? It's competitive painting, and it's a large scale model.
Yeah.
So if someone's going to notice that level of detail and care, it's going to be in this environment, right? Yeah. So I think it makes sense. And the biggest question that I have for you is, you have these wonderful lines that are, window pane, shadow casting. They're stark, they're dark, they look plotted correctly because you used a real world reference to do it. But where do you go from here?
They need to be fuzzed ever so slightly wherever they meet.
With the Rhinox high color? With that color or whatever it is?
That was actually a question I had is how do you take it from this, clearly, first of all, as a sketch, this is holy shit, amazing.
Yeah.
But then how do you take that, that sort of starkness and make that feel a little less laid on top?
Right. Yeah. So the big part is I specifically made that color darker than I thought it probably needed to be for 2 reasons. One, I don't want it to feel like you don't notice it. I want it to be obvious. And 2, I made it warm because the rest of that model is going to be warm. So then those shadows would feel warm as well. My hope is twofold. One, I've got to fuzz that line. And it's going to be a very subtle fuzz.
Like flamey on, kind of like tip of the brush blending kind of thing.
Yes, just a little fuzz of like the glaze of that color pulling into the dark, right? Where it meets any surface. So it's fuzzed, but it's not hyper fuzzy like when you see the reflections on some busts of like the leaf cover from above, right? Shadows from foliage. Right. That's very fuzzy and faint. This, because I want it dramatic at sunset. That light is so bright and so punchy that the shadows that it casts are much harder. And it also says that he's sitting close to the window.
Right. That's the other thing. Yeah.
He's close to the window. So that's part one is the fuzz. Part two is when I put the tints over the top, I'm also going to put those tints over that dark red color too. So that'll pull things together ever so slightly, not a lot, but it'll help kind of uniform the whole scene as the light would kind of blow out the shadow. It would move into the shadow a bit on the surface. Not so much that like it's going to lighten it, right? Because we're talking about transparent glazes. But my hope is that we get enough warmth plus the fuzzing that they're not so over the top as they are right now. That's the goal. But again, I've never done this. I have no idea. Who knows how it's going to turn out.
You know, just kudos to you for just taking that bold move of saying, I'm going to do cast shadows. I'm going to do different light settings. I'm going to do a scale of model that I don't typically work in. Like that is, and that's one of the great thing about something like Capital Palette.
Yeah.
And I haven't been, and Nova is, if not, probably next year, I'm going to try to hit Nova. I've just heard too many good things about it to not go.
Yeah.
But that feels like one of those events where you can do that, right? The parameters for the competition are so much more wide open.
Right.
The opportunity to play is so much more, I don't want to say rewarded, but I'll say rewarded because I can think of a better word than something with a much more kind of structured rule set around it. So this is absolutely the right event to be playing with something like this. And this is just really incredible work to date. And you said you haven't really worked on the cool side yet. That's just very sketchy right now.
Yeah, there's the basic outline of his shapes on his face to give you the understanding of the light direction. So the light direction is going to be different as well. So we get some contrast there. But it's purposely not going to be, I want it to appear painted like it's ambient colder light from a colder unlit room. No window in that side of the room. Over cold stone, right? So we're going to get some ambient light. It's kind of a universal ambient, but I gotta have some direction to it.
And you need to get to like some level of detail refinement to it.
Yes.
And it's that challenge, right? Because if you take it too far, then it's going to be fighting with the warm side where you want the focus to be in the storytelling. But on the other hand, if you don't take it far enough, it just kind of gets a little muddy and flat.
Right. Yeah. And that's it. And that's why I got it to the point that it's at. And then I'm just kind of leaving it because I feel like I'll have more direction or confidence once I get the bright side closer to done, right? And then I'll be able to say I know how far to take it.
Yep.
And
did you deliberately pick this model because it doesn't have a back?
That's the joke, right? Yeah. Suck on that one, Eric Swinson. Can't get in front of me for saying stuff. I will paint the back.
A bunch of sexy wood grain on.
Yeah, there's gonna be cold. There's gonna be cold painted wood grain on the back. It's gonna fucking suck to do, but I'll do it.
So hold on, I have one more question about the bars. Are you going to obviously there's bars on his red cloak, there's bars on his white beard. Are you going to mix some of that color into the brown to make it look like a dark and muddy, warm version of that color, or is there no color going in the brown bars?
In the real world references, I had that question because I didn't in my head. I don't know. I did the real world references of shots like this, photography of this, and it does not change it. When you have a stark shadow that's pushed on there, it just destroys whatever color's underneath it. So it doesn't. Now I may get to the point where I'm to where everything else that I said is done, and it still feels off, and I might have to do that.
Yeah, where you go more real than real kind of thing.
Yeah,
I think there are setups that would do that, but also there's photos where that wouldn't happen.
Right.
So I think you get to pick really what you want.
I'll know, and I'll probably send you guys pictures when I'm at that point and ask your feedback because.
Do you want to do a lot more work or no more work?
Ooh, good question.
It's 4 weeks.
Yeah, it depends how close it is, right?
I mean, the one place where I think I could see that happening is, and again, where you're sort of hyper real or beyond real to make it look real, is the beard. You know, because it's just to give it not a lot, but just, you know, where those silver whiskers might still pick up some.
It's also a lighter color in general, so maybe
Yeah.
it darkens less, unlike the red. I don't know. Yeah.
It's good. Those
no,
are
it's
all good ideas. Good
It's
feedback.
it's great work.
It's good.
Silly thing is my favorite part right now is on his right shoulder where I have that line of that sun is going through, and it's just a stark. No, the red on his cloak and the white there, and then the shadow of the medallion thing is like when you look at it like that, I'm just like, wow. It was like 4 brush strokes. I'm like, oh, that feels like real light, and it's not fully refined or whatever, but it's just like that sells that angle, that side that is hitting where it's just coming through. And there's a bunch of fun work that I'm going to do on the crow because the light actually does hit the the chin of the crow.
I love the crow. I didn't recognize the crow. He's like resting his head on the guy's arm, dude. I love that.
His little crow bro.
Yeah. So he's going to be warm on his belly and his lower chin of the crow, and then it's going to go to the black that he's painted and then have the cool on the backside.
So he has a King Arthur bust with Merlin in the bust.
Yes.
Is this like that kid all grown up with Merlin kind of resting his head on his forearm? Because you could turn into a bird, right? That's Merlin's shtick.
Well, King of Thule is the name of the piece, and there are actual, like, when I Googled that, there's like actual old like Renaissance painting of somebody called the King of Thule. He's got a longer beard than this, but he looks like this guy. So I think he's got some real world or some mythological reference that I'm not aware of. But that's what I thought too. Yeah. I thought and I kind of did him almost like from the Sword. Was it The Sword and the Stone, the old Disney movie?
Oh yeah,
where Merlin has that kind of red, white, and blue outfit.
Oh, yeah.
And I might do on his collar yet. They have those little, like, on the fluff fur, they have, like, those little, like, black V's. I don't know if you guys, usually royalty have those.
So,
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, if you go to, like, medieval times, the king will be wearing that.
Like chevrons or polka dots. So it's funny you mentioned that because I got this tattoo recently. And there was a weird miscommunication with my tattoo artist, but I have some polka dots on these feathers because you see that a lot with like plumage and stuff. But I didn't get it on that side, and it's only on like 1/4 of it, not these bottom ones. But yes, there's definitely a thing you see in royalty.
Right. So I was like, well, I mean, that feels a little over the top, but it feels on the nose in a good way, right?
Yeah,
so
for sure.
I'm feeling like I might have to add those if I get the time to do it.
It's like a character building thing that also allows you to show talent at the same time. So 100%. Yeah. That's cool. Well, good job, lads. Awesome paint jobs. Proud of you all. Looks fantastic. All right, next up, we'll do our patron critique. If you want to get some feedback from me and John and a potential guest sometimes, you can check out our Patreon, link down in the show notes and description below. One of the benefits you get from the Patreon is getting feedback from us. You also have the ability to give us topic suggestions for episodes, and you also get an extended portion of the podcast wherein we talk about extra stuff, like new things we tried out and experimented with, models that we love from other people in the hobby, and more stuff. It's about 20 to 30 minutes extra of content. All right, but we got a Nurgle mini from Age Sigmar from countryboy_minis. Let's take a look. He's on a horse. He's got a big Reaper scythe.
Dude, country boy likes to paint them horses.
Country boy.
Living up to the name, right?
Yeah. And this is one of my favorite minis that GW has put out in the last number of years.
And it's such an incredible glow up of one of their best miniatures from the days of yore.
Yes, it absolutely is. I'm blanking what the exact name of.
Was the Herald of Nurgle or something like that?
I think you're right. It's one of the reasons why I like it is it's like a diorama in the box. Like it's a scene.
Yeah.
Similar to the Cities of Sigmar High Marshal that I painted as part of my unit in Golden Demon last year, where it's just like a beautiful scene with one model on the basing that they supply with. So glorious model, also a lot of model. It is not strictly just because of size, but there are so many different details. There's so many different textures. There's so many different kinds of fabric. There's so many everything. My first feedback, cowboy, is that
cowboy, country boy.
Listen here,
country cow,
country. I say he's a country boy. He I think your picture is quite overexposed, so I'm having some troubles.
It's a front facing light.
Yeah, it's blowing out your color.
Yeah, you're like crushing the contrast you put into the model just by where you put the light.
Right.
Yeah.
So some of the feedback I have for you is going to be related to color and contrast, and take it with a grain of salt if it looks better than in person than this, because it very well could. The question mark I have is because there's like goop coming down from the horse's mouth, and that is quite saturated. And so it leads me to believe that maybe this model is fairly desaturated across the whole thing. And I'd love to add more depth of contrast in interesting shadow colors glazed in around the folds of the fabric, anything that is kind of downward facing where more shadows would collect, to bring more dimension, to show the volumes better, because it's feeling a little bit flat to me right now.
Yeah, that was my biggest first observation is, clearly the color choices are great. I love the color composition, but everything both from a value and saturation standpoint is all living in the same band.
Yes.
So there's no depth provided either by having some things be super saturated or some things be less saturated. This whole thing in general is kind of a low saturation kind of pastel-y thing. Those happen to be colors I really like. So personally, that appeals to me. Mm-hmm. But when the whole thing is living in that area, it's sort of hard to read because it is such a busy GW model. It's sort of hard to pick out where my eye wants to go. Your eye tends to go to the two darkest contrasting points, which are the 3 yellow dots and the green snot.
Yeah.
Because those are the only things that are living in a different level of intensity. And yeah, just by adding and just some more definition, and maybe that is because the photo is pretty blown out. But just some more definition around the different areas, like where you've got his sleeve draping on top of his cloak. There's a little bit of black lining there, but it's still, when you give it the squint test, it kind of all just blends into one mass. Whereas I think if you were to play more, like darken the lower part of the cloak more, like where it goes over his knee and then drapes down, then that starts to draw your eye up toward the face of the miniature a lot more.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion. I think that would really, really work.
So I have some positive feedback, which kind of flies in the face of what they're both saying, because I agree largely with what you're saying. Like do
you need the Vince, here's where you're wrong?
No, not really. But like, I get what you're saying. Busy model, a lot of low saturation, it affects the readability. I totally agree with that.
Yep.
At the same time, though, I like how the cloak, while the mid-tone is kind of more of a khaki color, the shadow is kind of like this evergreen, this cooler green.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really like his choice.
No, the color choices are fantastic.
Yeah, and then the horse as well has a kind of more of like a limey kind of green shadow. So again, kind of pastel, but he's like playing with the shadows, and I really do like that quite a bit.
Yeah, there's a lot in, just like Dan said, in use of color that is done really, really well here. Mm-hmm. I just want to take the dial and crank it up to 11, and then overdo your shadows, overdo the funkiness in the highlight buildups to bring some more life in the volumes through interesting colors. This as your color choice and laying out the model, sketching out the colors correctly is really, really good.
Right.
I just want to punch it up a bit.
Yep.
It gives me a bit of a GW vibe, and sometimes when I get that vibe, I identify the fact that like his green cloak is painted almost with the same level of contrast on the top of his head as it is like down here below the shield, right?
Yeah.
And it's like that whole thing could swing top to bottom,
exactly. Yep.
and then also have all of these localized, contrast things.
Yeah.
And I think that's something you notice in a lot of GW painting, where it's this kind of this global illumination.
Universal value all the way through.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which like has its place for sure.
Absolutely.
It looks like really put together and clean and stuff.
Photographs great on a website and in a catalog. Yeah, it looks good.
Absolutely. Yeah. But yeah, a bit of a swing as well can help to avoid having the 3 yellow dots and the green mucus in the horse's mouth be like the focal point, right? If everything's kind of like pointing you up to like the rider and his torso and stuff like that.
But honestly, what I will say is just knowing how and where to put the color. If you've got that down, everything from there is just sort of managing the technique. And he's got a really great start on knowing where to put the color and how to use the colors against each other. So if it's just refined, I mean, that's one of the hardest parts of miniature painting. So you've got a really great start. You've got a good piece here. You should be very proud of it.
Yeah.
And I think as you continue just working through and evolving things, it's only going to get better.
I agree. Put some static tufts on that base, That really breaks up the painted plastic look of miniatures in a wonderful way and allows the model to kind of like be separate from the base in a way and kind of have it stand out more from the base, I think.
Yep.
Don't need a lot. You just like little touches here and there can do a lot for a base.
Way to go, country boy.
Country cowboy boy minis.
Yes.
And I'm going to be disappointed if he's not listening to this episode while riding the range.
Yeah.
Yes.
On a Victrola that he actually has mounted on the back of his horse.
What's a Victrola?
Like the old-fashioned record player with like the big
the
horn on it.
horn?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to get those on the back of an undead horse, but you can actually you could probably just scoop out the back end of the horse with an ice cream scoop because it's undead. It doesn't need muscles. Just kind of wedge it in there, in between some ribs.
All right, on to our next TUP Partner segment here. First in our segment is the Army Painter, and they have their new Blanche singles now available on the web store and also at events. And John, you used these paints, right, on a model somewhat recently.
Yeah, I used the Blanche paints quite a bit. I just really like that it's a nice, cohesive color scheme. You can grab any paint out of that set, throw them together on a model, and it's like, oh, somebody else did all the color selection work for me. It's a load of fun. I suggest people try it out.
Yeah. We also have the Redgrass Games shouting out their new R9 Solo desk lamp. If you felt like the big lamp that they had was maybe a little bit too expensive, this one's a little bit smaller, a little bit cheaper, but still comes with that awesome, great, high CRI light quality that we all come to love with our painting lights. Make sure we're getting accurate color rendering of the things we're using. Make sure we get great results at our painting desk.
Absolutely. Next up, we've got Steamforged Games. And like I said earlier, they are just finishing up their Game Found campaign for Wave 2 of the P3 paints. This will be the version or the finalized home of what a well-rounded P3 range will look like. They filled all existing holes. I believe it's 64-ish new colors to make the set not hundreds and hundreds of paints, but all the holes in those sections of the core set are now filled. I've been messing with them. Like I said, I painted King of Thule with them. They're amazing. And there should be a late backer option for you. So you want to get that because I believe it's like 20% off for retail if you back it. And there's also some fun rewards you get as well.
You have no idea how excited I was to walk into the source last weekend and see the P3 rack.
Oh, yeah, baby.
And I made a beeline for that underbelly blue and coal black.
Lastly, we have Corvus Belli. And if you're watching this episode or listening to it on the day of release, it should be August 4th. And that's the last day to pre-order their new box set, The Song of the Dormant, a new faction for their game War Crow. Speaking of War Crow, both the lads here have painted elves from that game. It's a cool game. What was one mechanic from War Crow that you enjoyed?
So one of the things I really like about the game is it's a very small model count, but mechanically they do this really interesting like resource management side of it where you roll your dice and you get it's wacky dice.
Sure.
Because it's coming from their dungeon crawler game, which, by the way, is fantastic.
Okay.
I've heard.
I know you're a big dungeon crawler guy,
Yes.
so when you're wrapping up your current one, the War Crow Adventures is definitely worth checking out. We're playing through it right now. But when you roll the dice, you get your hits and misses. But then you also get what are called surges. And then you can spend those to have your models do additional damage or inflict conditions on other models. And then you get this thing where when you can upgrade and downgrade dice, and it's like, oh, this dice is less likely to roll hits, but it might give me more surges. So maybe, maybe I'm more interested in putting a poison counter on this guy than I am actually doing a wound to it, because long-term it's going to be the better strategy.
Right.
So there's some really fun, I know you're a big Guild Ball guy, and that building up these resources and being able to figure out how you want to spend those during the combat resolution is a really fun aspect of it.
Yeah, I think that's cool to do other things than hitting and missing with your combat dice. So that's pretty cool. So check it out. Last day to pre-order Song of the Dormant. Now, in our main topic.
All right, we have Dan here today, as you guys probably know, because you've already been talking for a long time with Dan.
Yeah.
And it was good because we got to talk with Dan about a lot of other things. We had kind of one main thing that we want to talk about with Dan today, and we'll see where all it goes. But
And that's we're gonna rank all the Wu-Tang solo albums.
yes, obviously.
We're finally going to settle it. Is it Liquid Swords or only built for Cuban links? Which is the best?
I have no idea.
The RZA. Yeah, that. Other than that,
right? That's
the after part.
The demon part will be the after part. Oh, okay, we're gonna switch it up. All right,
let's switch it up.
We told him something different before we started shooting. Sorry.
So Dan, just this last year at Golden Demon, won his very first Golden Demon. Congratulations!
Thank you.
You brought it with you today, so we get to hold it in person. I got to see it in person at Adepticon, and I can tell you, it was one of the pieces that got some of the most comments, the most people standing around the cases saying, "Oh yeah, you certainly checked that's fucking Warhammer box with your piece," which is such a key thing, and you nailed that to a T. I think your background as an architect aided you as well,
considerably,
in this piece. And so we'll talk a bit about that piece, but we also want to talk about your journey as a whole.
Sure.
As someone in their 50s, pushing hard for Golden Demon, and kind of what brought you to this, and kind of how long have you been at this hobby in general too?
Yeah. So where did the competitive itch start?
I think like a lot of people in certain aspects of their life, they just find themselves to be very competitive in general. I played hockey most of my life, including as an adult. So I really enjoyed pushing myself in that area. I wasn't great, like I wasn't on varsity or anything, but it's just something I really liked and liked pushing, challenging myself. I joined the Marine Corps specifically because I thought they had the hardest boot camp. So I wanted to prove that I could do that. And eventually went to architecture school, which is a very challenging program. So that sort of like level of like, how can I push myself to be better in whatever I'm doing, always exists to a certain level. Like whatever hobby I take on, it's kind of funny because my wife is very similar. So this is a thing we both share. Is like whatever hobby I'm going to take on, I'm going to throw myself into it, and I'm going to figure out how can I learn the most about it and be, if not, probably not the best, but how can I be really good at it?
Sure.
So I like a lot of us, I got into miniature painting through Dungeons and Dragons in high school.
Yes.
And I started D&D with the old Earl Otis, the purple and green cover of the basic set. So the pre-red box set. Yep. That was my first introduction, which actually, so you guys remember the Scholastic book fairs?
Oh yeah.
They used to have, Scholastic used to publish a magazine for like middle school age kids called Dynamite. And they would do stuff on like movies and pop culture. And there was an issue in, I want to say December of like 1982 or 81. And there was a big piece in there about Dungeons and Dragons. And it was the first time I'd heard of this, but the thing that really attracted me to it is it had all these pictures of this really cool dungeon someone built and all the monsters and the characters in the dungeon. And I'm like, whatever this is, I want a piece of this. Yeah. So for my 12th birthday, I asked for the D&D starter set.
Okay.
And then from there would pick up the old Dragon magazine. And then that led me to like Ralpartha and Grenadier miniatures. Somewhere at home, I still have the first D&D model I painted. At probably like 13 years old. I think I've gotten a little better since then.
It's not here. We can't compare.
Yeah, right.
We'll never know.
Yeah. And was, did that for a while. And then like I told the story about, buying some GW models when I was in the Marines, just as a thing to do is for fun, but then kind of drifted, like a lot of us drifted away from the hobby, went to college, got my first job. We had our child. And something I was always very curious about. And then after we had our son, I was thinking, well, I'm not gonna be able to go out as much. What's something I could do just kind of entertain myself at home? And we were walking through the Rosedale Mall and walked by Air Traffic, which is this game and juggling store, which is a weird combo. But walked in there and was like, oh, look at that wall of Warhammer stuff.
Yeah, it's also not the first time we've heard about this store,
Right.
Don Haney also mentioned Air Traffic when he was on the podcast last.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah, Don Haney used to work at Air Traffic.
Yeah.
He was like their marketing director or something for many years.
Yeah.
It was actually through Air Traffic is how I met Don.
Okay. Awesome.
So I thought, oh, okay. Well, I got a little extra cash. I think we just got like a mid-year bonus or something at work, which as a recent grad, I think was like maybe $50. So I was like, oh, I'm going to pick up pick up a couple of paints and some models. And I bought some Skaven models and like 4 or 5 paints, and the rest is history from there.
Yeah.
And my wife likes to say that I duped her, because when she met me in college, like, oh, you were like this, you worked at the college radio station, and you were like this hip, like cool, kind of dangerous guy. And you just turned out to be a huge nerd.
Yeah. Yeah, psych.
Gotcha, sweetie.
Yeah, I wore World of Warcraft t-shirts to high school. So my wife knew what she was
So
doing.
you knew she was in for it from day one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
So it got back into the hobby from there. Minneapolis has always had this incredible painting and hobby community.
Yeah.
I know that you're from the Wisconsin area, Milwaukee area, and you're from southern Minnesota, but especially Minneapolis. And there used to be a game store on Lake Street called Phoenix Games. And that was my neighborhood game store. We lived in Uptown. So that's where I would go hang out and paint and play games. And it just so happened that was like this epicenter of incredibly talented and passionate hobbyists in the Twin Cities.
So there were people there that were like kind of inspiring you to greatness.
Absolutely. Bennett Blaylock Doan, who won a Slayer sword and had so many golden demons that at one point he cut a bunch up to make into terrain for a big Warhammer event.
That's a flex.
Wow. Right? He's like, yeah, I got like 8 more at home. It's fine. And then Dylan Gawker, who I believe may still be the youngest Slayer sword winner. He was like 20 when he won his Slayer sword.
Goddamn.
I met him.
Yeah.
When it was Tower Games.
Tower Games, yeah. Tower Games was the successor to Phoenix Games.
Right when and he was working there, and I was like, "There's a golden demon in the case over there," and the owner was like, "Oh yeah, that's Dylan's," and so I talked to this guy, and he seemed so young then, but
he has a youthful countenance.
Yes, but he told me he's like, "Oh, I basically quit painting shortly after that. He hasn't painted in like 10 years."
No.
Quit.
He got into a much less stressful hobby and got into competitive Magic for about 5 years.
Checks out. There is a bloodline there of competitive Magic and competitive miniature painting. There's a certain kind of personality type that I think, like, if you're driven to one and you have the artistic inclination, you would maybe fall into the other. So it doesn't surprise me.
Yep. So I'm hanging out at the shop and I'm talking to these people and just kind of seeing their work, and they're critiquing my work. And at that time, I was still very much focused on army painting. Won a few Best Army awards, and I always wanted to compete in Golden Demon, but at that time, U.S. Golden Demon was always the last weekend in July, which is also my son's birthday. So there was no world in which I was ever going to go to Games Day to compete in Golden Demon, which is fine.
Unless you bring him with.
Yeah. But I would compete locally. And then around 2006 or 7, started going to Adepticon. And they ran an event called the Rogue Demon, which was their own painting competition before Crystal Brush came in, and entered stuff there. And, took a few things here and there from it, but it was just kind of fun then. But you're talking to, at that time, like the luminaries were, Jen Haley and, kind of those early people who were winning the Slayer sword. So you're getting feedback from them, and, still just, not super competitive, but just, really hobbyist plus. And that went on for quite a while. And then entered some things in Crystal Brush. I actually did win one Crystal Brush.
Nice. What category?
Diorama.
Okay.
I won it the very first year. I was working on a piece for Rogue Demon, and then they changed it to Crystal Brush, and I did enter, and I look at it now, I'm like, there's no reason that this should have won an award. But I think it was the first year, and the level was not quite to where Crystal Brush eventually kind of became a little famous/infamous for.
Yeah, you don't gotta do yourself dirty like that. You won it fair and square.
Yeah, yeah.
Just like everyone else wins it.
Yeah, yep. So that was, and it was still when they were giving out like the big crystal trophy with like the colored tip on the paintbrush. Yes. So I got that.
The gold, was it the gold?
Yeah, the gold, bronze, or silver tip.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's how they denoted it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I got one of those. So that was pretty fun. And then when and then I entered a few more times and I didn't think I ever made it to the final round at Crystal Brush ever again. But that's fine because I would get feedback every year from people from my pieces. And then they announced Golden Demon's coming back, and I was super hyped. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this.
Okay, what year is this?
20. I can tell you, they announced it in 2019 that it was coming back in March of 2020.
Then it didn't.
Yeah, then it didn't.
Yeah.
So I'd started actually. So it turns out I started working on the project that I entered this year. So I'd sketched up the idea. I saw the model had just come out. I sketched up the idea. One of the early proto on the margins of a notepad in a meeting at work. And I was like, oh, this could be kind of cool. And started just sort of working on it a little bit. Didn't really realize what I was getting myself into. And then, of course, it was canceled.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But, really what I took that as an opportunity to say, okay, we're not leaving the house. We're not going to conventions, not playing games. I'm just going to really focus on leveling up my painting.
Okay.
And I had picked up the original OG Chimera set. And I said, I'm going to teach myself how to use these. And I basically spent the next 2 years just painting nothing but display level models, kind of alone in my office and posting them for friends to get feedback from. And I got goggles and was amazed at just how much growth I saw over those couple of years.
Wow.
And
did you bring any of the pieces that were part of that journey here, or are
I
these
didn't. No, I didn't. I should. I can send some pictures.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I did. There was a sister. There's a Ogren that I tried copying Sam Lenz's paint job, but then flipped it. His is all blue with like kind of golden highlights, and I did it all gold with blue highlights. So I was like trying to teach myself like how Sam approached highlights and shadows and. Weirdly, so I actually have you to thank for learning how to wet blend.
Oh, I think actually the first time we met at the source, you brought this up. Actually,
I'd always been trying to figure out like I saw people doing a talk on it. I don't even remember exactly what no, actually, do you remember what your specific advice was? It was one of your videos where you talked about you have to blend dark into light. You can't blend light into dark. And I was like, oh, and I'm sure it's not as simple as that in reality.
Yeah, maybe not.
But that video, it was honestly probably one of your first videos that you made.
Yeah, how
and
I blend.
For whatever it was, how you described it, that kind of finally unlocked it for me to the point I was like, oh, now it makes sense.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So yeah, I mean, that was just a really great part of that journey. And that got me to the place then in 2024. So last year where I entered my Golden Demon for the first time. And I brought these two pieces. Mm-hmm. So I did this single fig.
2024.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this little mini diorama.
Mm-hmm. So notably not the one that you got excited about for the 2021.
For 2020, yeah.
2021.
Yeah. I did not do that piece. I just put that aside and wanted to work on something else. So I did these two pieces, one in single fig and one in diorama. And for the diorama, I got the award formerly known as finalist, now known as commended, which frankly makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
And then I got a notable on that piece.
Which is that a higher tier? Or?
Lower. That's lower. Okay. So it's notable. It is now notable commended finalist.
Okay.
So basically I got a notable and a commended, which for my first time entering was great. And especially having never entered Golden Demon before, not having been to Golden Demon, I was thrilled with those results, beyond thrilled. But more than anything, I just learned a lot how to approach it. And one of the things that really, there was a kind of a Pauline scales falling from my eyes moment, talking with James Tarot at like 3 a.m, a very drunk James Tarot, plinth maker to the stars,
and great painter,
and incredible painter.
Yeah.
He did a piece for 2024 of the two goblins fighting over the parachute.
Yeah.
Mid-fall.
And it's when you look at it, it's such a simple piece. It's just two goblins and an epic scale plane and kind of a funny little base. Mm-hmm. But when he talked about the research that he did and the level of detail that he put into that model, like he's talking about, researching skydiving, looking at parachute straps, looking at what are the things that skydivers wear. He said he went and bought a fire extinguisher so that he could see how the fire extinguisher hose moves when you spray it. Just really the level of taking the story, not just at the surface level of there are two goblins jumping out of a plane, but what are all the small details that support that story? And that goes all the way down. And it also talked to me a lot about composition. that, one of the things I think that a lot of people fall into is they focus, and I really fell into this trap before this last year, is you focus a lot on painting the miniature. And you think, oh, I'll figure the base out later. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that approach. But if you're going to bring something to a competition level, that whole composition needs to be effectively locked before the first brush of paint needs to go on.
Okay. So I have a question. So when
please.
you were planning out this thing, you were doing some level of pre-production. You were sketching it.
I was.
And then something about James's process was like inspiring to you.
Absolutely.
And you're like, oh, there's another level.
Yes.
That I could go to.
Yes.
And that's what it was.
That is exactly what it was.
Was that an exciting part?
Oh God, it was so exciting.
You didn't see that as a chore though.
No.
That was part of the enjoyment.
Yes.
Right? Okay, cool.
That is absolutely part of the enjoyment for me is, my Clifton Strengths Finders, my number one is input, which is basically the collection of information. So I love doing that research. I love looking into these things. I love learning more about a topic. So, the ability to take that and then turn that into a thing. Also, as an architect, I spent a lot of years as a project architect, which for those not in the industry basically means my job is to figure out how to build the thing that the designer comes up with. And that means, how do I understand how these two pieces of material are going to come together, and like researching different sheet metal folding techniques, different window installation techniques, and really understanding. So it's kind of always, it's part of my job and part of just how I'm wired is doing that kind of work.
Okay. Exploring new topics.
Okay. And then understanding how things work. And then how do you represent how that works in 3 dimensions.
Okay.
So like when I did this piece, the one that Scott's holding right now, the little Skaven versus Orc diorama, I'd started painting the models, and then the models were mostly painted, and then I started trying to figure out the base. And actually I got some great last minute feedback from John, just about, I know this is mostly painted, but you should really think about reposing a couple of these things because this isn't reading very well. And so, it's like, oh, okay, that's great advice, and I really wish that I had started planning this a lot further in advance. So when I started approaching and preparing for 2025, that is where I started from day one. Like, okay, what is the composition? What's the story? How is this going to be put together? And then how do I start to take that down to another level? So like the bridge, I did a lot of research on how steel bridges are built. I relied on the knowledge that I have from, my day job to look at, how do two pieces of steel come together?
Right.
And how can I make that look realistic? How can I convey that next level of storytelling?
Right.
It's not something anybody's going to spend a lot of time looking at,
right?
But just that texture is going to add to it.
Also, I think it's important just to take a step back and say that you didn't need to be an architect
to
figure that out. You just need to have an insatiable sense of curiosity.
Yes.
Essentially.
And the willingness to do the work.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So I want to get a sense of the scale of time here. You had 2 pieces for 2024.
Yep.
And so you had a whole year to paint those 2 pieces. How long did you take approximately to work on those pieces? Which one was first? Which one was second?
So the single fig, the Inquisitor with the dragon, was my first piece, and that probably took me about 3 months.
3 months. Okay.
Yep.
And are you mixing in other painting for
No.
So just 3 months.
I'm
of
just
evening painting.
Yep.
Okay, cool. All right. And then you moved on to the diorama, and that was like what, 6 months?
No, that was probably a little less than 3 months. That was
how did that happen?
I finished her up in January, and I thought I got time to do another piece.
Okay. So it's just like the pressure.
Yeah, and I had this idea when this model was first announced, the orc holding the Skaven head. I had that idea like as soon as I saw that model on the Warhammer community preview site. It's like, oh, this could be a really cool scene with like some Skaven like facing off with this guy, and but some of them are running away, but there's like the one last brave rat standing to challenge the big bad orc, who just killed his clansman.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh yeah, how hard can that be? It's like 3 models. I can paint that in 10 weeks.
I'm so shocked that you had just spent 3 months painting a single fig, and you're like, let's paint 4. The same amount of time.
Yeah.
What math are you doing in your head to justify that?
Well, so although I was required to take a year of calculus in college, I wasn't very good at it.
think calculus is required to do that, Matt Dan.
Oh no.
So, but it worked out.
It did work out. And
There's more hours. Though.
More hours, definitely more hours. I would say there is probably as many or more hours in that piece than the single fig. Just, a lot more intensity. And I'm in a very fortunate place where we are empty nesters. And, my wife is very supportive of my hobby time, and she certainly has her own hobbies. And our studio is actually set up, like her sewing studio is set up right next to my painting studio.
Wonderful.
So, if she's making a dress or something like that, she can just kind of hang out with me while we paint. So we listen to music or podcasts or whatever. So I'm very fortunate to have the time to be able to spend that when it gets into crunch time.
Okay.
Cool.
That's awesome.
And we still managed to squeeze in a trip to MagicCon in the middle of MagicCon Chicago in the middle of all that, because my wife is also a huge Magic player.
But are these the two things you painted in that year?
In that kind of last 6 months of the year, yeah, that was basically it.
Okay. I think it's important just to understand for people who if we're trying to promote this idea that you can also compete in Golden Demon and you can be a Dan, I think it's important to really understand the level of commitment, right? And the level of energy you're putting into these pieces. It's a lot,
It is.
It's a lot of work.
It is.
And then at the end of the day, how did you feel when you discovered that these weren't winning pieces? You felt great that they had some level of placement, right?
Oh God, getting that finalist pin, I felt like I won.
Awesome.
That was what I needed. And now, because we are who we are, and why we're sitting here, the next morning when I had breakfast with Don Haney, I was like, yeah, I really understand where I fucked up these two models.
And where do you think was the main issues with these two things?
Okay, so just breaking it down quickly on the single figure, it's nice, it's well painted, it's not amazingly painted. There's a few. It's not amazingly painted by Golden Demon standards. There's a few little blends that could be a little better. There's a few areas that are a little flat and could maybe use a little more articulation. But ultimately, it's a well painted model sitting on an okay base. That next level is missing. Where's the narrative? Where's the visual hook that's going to make somebody go from, oh, nice model, to, oh, what's going on here?
Something special.
And really diving into that analysis, right? And that's the challenge with single fig. People always say, oh, diorama, what a crazy cut. Dioramas are easy because, you have so much opportunity to tell story. You have so much opportunity to layer in more detail. If you just got one model on a 2.5 inch diameter plinth, that's hard. That's terrifying. And on the orc diorama, I think that really comes down purely to composition. I think that the golden angle is really hard to find. I think how the two figures are opposing each other is not as strong as it could be. I think that they actually could use more layering. Going back to the old Shep Payne, How to Build a Diorama book, which I had as a kid. How you kind of read it, if you're going to read something up, the way you read it through, it's not as strong as it could be. So, again, technically, I think the painting is pretty well executed. It's some of the best painting I've done on that piece. I leveled up a lot on everything from fur and leather to NMM on that. So very proud of that. But where it fell apart ultimately is in the composition. It comes back to, I remember that one video you did about your first Golden Demon piece. And I think even you titled that, I lost before I started.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And I made the same mistake that you're feeling like that you did, is that if you don't have a really strong concept, layout, composition, impactful story, you're just spending a lot of time to set yourself up for probable failure.
Yeah.
And the level of your execution of painting has to be six steps higher to make up for that.
Right.
And that's none of us, are capable of that, or almost none of us. And those of us that are good enough for making up for that also recognize the value of composition, so they usually don't make those many mistakes. So
right.
Yeah. And I often find too, it's when you realize that, sometimes you have to stub your toe pretty hard and make that mistake yourself to realize how important it is. And I think we both kind of did that, which is important too. Because then it's okay, I'm going to slow down and not stress about getting to, the quicker I start painting, the quicker I can get more hours in, because that's where your brain goes.
Yeah.
And that's, you'll get there on the painting. It's just you can't unscrew yourself.
Yeah. I mean, the cliche that we always use in planning with clients is sometimes you have to go slow to go fast. Mm-hmm. And, that's a really important piece of it. The other piece, which is really, it's obvious, and I don't know why it took me so long to like really make this part of my workflow. Feedback is so important. And, this is a very solipsistic hobby. It is very easy to just sit at your paint desk with your head down and headphones on, or, mindless YouTube videos running in the background, and not engage with other people and just kind of feel like, okay, I'm getting done what I need to get done. And you need to avoid that if you're going to try to compete at this level, or even if you just want to grow as a painter, like even just, for your own personal work, finding that feedback is so critical. Finding those people that have a good eye, that have good, they don't even necessarily need to be the best painters in the world, but they can just be somebody who really understands color, really understands composition. They may not even be miniature painters. They could be other artists that or other friends who just have a good eye for that kind of thing. And sometimes even good to get a layperson's view on it. Like, does this read to you? Does this make sense to you? Do you see, when you look at this, what do you see? And, if they say, I don't know what I see, it's like, okay, then something's not reading right here.
Right.
So, day one, as I'm starting to concept this piece and I'm moving it from beyond just kind of putting sketches together and kind of holding pieces together, I'm taking pictures of this and I'm sending it to friends. Don Haney was just an incredible mentor through this entire project. And that's exactly the right word to use on that, because he very much was just there for me, both as a incredibly skilled and award-winning painter, but also just as a supportive, sometimes literal shoulder to cry on when you're having that 3 a.m. meltdown. And so just getting that, this thing is going from the foam block stage, and I'm holding stuff up and blue tape and blue tacking everything together, and then making minor adjustments, and that process and carried on all the way through the painting as well. These colors make sense, mocking up different things and putting it in front of people, just like any art thing, and I think back to when I went to architecture school, a big part of that is the critique, right? We spend weeks working on these projects, putting together, they give you a design brief, like, design a library on an urban site. So you do that, and then it comes to the end of the semester and you pin everything up, you literally pin it up on a wall, print it out, you have your models that you've built, and they get in like 3 people from the profession, and they sit down and they tell you where your work is succeeding and where it's failing. And then you take that feedback and you internalize that, and you take that to your next project and next project. And you're getting that feedback all the way through the semester. They call them crits. We don't call them professors. We call them crits because they're critics. So they're coming through and they're critiquing your work on a daily basis as you're developing your concept leading up to that final semester. So really taking that same approach to how I'm doing this, sending pictures, having people over to take a look at my stuff, meeting up with people, finding that community of feedback. It's really important. And yes, there are a lot of great ways to get that. There's a lot of great Patreons you can join. There's a lot of really skilled painters who you can have give you feedback. But you can also just find a great network in your own hobby group that's able to give that to you.
Yeah. So one thing that's interesting is that you had the idea for the orc vehicle ramping off of the highway initially.
Yeah.
But then you put it to the side.
Yeah.
And then you came back to it.
Yeah.
Why did you do that? Why did you not go for it in 2024?
I think the simple answer is I didn't feel like I had the skill to do it.
Okay. All right.
I felt like I had things I needed to level up on.
Right.
And really, coming out of 2024 Golden Demon, not only just the conversation with James about how to think about composition, how to think about storytelling and narrative, but also just seeing the photos on the GW website and the photos on Instagram do not, this is a cliche, but they do not reflect what the model looks like in the case or in your hand.
Yeah, I agree.
You can't understand the level of execution and passion that goes into these models until you have seen it in your hand. And, you may think you're painting at that level until you see it in real life.
Right.
And then you think, oh no, I got work to do.
Yeah, it was like a level setting moment.
Yeah.
Right.
So, as I, before leading up to starting my Golden Demon project last year, I did paint a number of models then after Adepticon. And for me, that was about, that's reps in the dojo.
Sure.
I'm punching boards under the waterfall and, really, okay, what are the things I need to work on? I need to work on, crisp highlight or whatever it is, I feel like I need to work on, or just kind of generally speaking, how can I level up my painting? And that became a big part of my, both hobby time and, in all honesty, I was considering it training for starting my Golden Demon piece. And when I felt like I had gotten to a place, where it's like, okay, I have walked the rice paper without leaving a mark, and now I'm ready to begin my journey to Golden Demon.
So at what point did you have a checklist of things you wanted to figure out, or was it more of a feeling?
No, it was purely vibes.
Okay.
It was purely vibes. Like of course I set out coming back from Adepticon with this like mental checklist in my head, like, okay, these are the things I really want to learn, and these are the people I want to reach out to help me learn it. And I did some of it, but in the end, of course, life happens, and it's just like, okay, and honestly, what I would say, there was a couple of pieces that I did where I really tried to push myself. I didn't bring it today, but there was the Skaven, the rat assassin, like on the archway, which is one of the best Skaven models GW's put out to date. I biffed it so hard on that model. I ended up stripping that thing like 3 times because I was trying all these different things with color composition and lighting, and none of it was working. But honestly, I learned so much through those failures, just about, okay, what not to do. That was a really great, it was painful at the time, but looking back on it, it's like, okay, this was actually a really good exercise.
Okay.
Yeah, it's certainly, I've experienced that many times as well, where it's like, it's not unlike, surfing, right? You have to understand how far you can go up that wave, and you only know that how far is too far when you crash.
Yes.
And so you just don't ever know unless you push yourself up to that edge, finding what the edge is. And then like, oh, okay, that was a learning moment and I fell on my face because of it, but I would never have learned if I didn't push the envelope.
Exactly.
So then you did a bunch of research and then execution. And how long did this project take in terms of hours? When did you start?
I started in earnest over Christmas of last year. I was fortunate enough to be able to take the week between Christmas and New Year's off from work.
Okay.
And just kind of focus on some family time and some hobby time. And that was really when I said, okay, here's where I'm going to start working on this hard. I was doing some work before that. Again, a lot of concept work, a lot of composition stuff, starting to work on reposing the figure. So one of the things too with, especially with Golden Demon, editing is so critical. I mean, we were talking with Cowboy Joe's model. Editing a Games Workshop model is a critical step.
Yep.
And what do you mean by that?
So Games Workshop produces incredible designs. The world building that they do through their models and the storytelling they do through their models is fantastic. However, they lean into a level of detail, which I think is very appealing and to a certain level, and looks great in a photograph on the website. But when you're thinking about it from a larger competition level, where you have a silhouette you need to make very clear, you have a storyline that you want to make very clear, you need to understand what things to clear away from that model to be for it to work. There's a lot of stuff on that kit that did not get glued on. There's a lot of stuff in that kit that got removed. And I had to do a lot of reposing. And, obviously Games Workshop didn't design that kit to be recreating the Bat Out of Hell album cover. So I had to, think about how does the figures need to pose to tell that story. So it was a lot of, leveling up my sculpting, and most of those, neither of those figures are in their stock pose. Every limb has been adjusted to some level to help with that story.
And yet not so overly changed that it's not recognizable.
Correct.
And that it still sells to the audience that it is a Games Workshop model, and they feel like they could see it in their own army at home. That's a key part of playing the game.
Yep. And then one of the things that just personally as as somebody, I don't ride motorcycles, but I'm an avid cyclist. The mechanical logic of how that bike was put together made zero sense and would not function. So I had to fix that just because it was just killing me.
That's orcs for you.
Yeah. So I basically redid some of the how pieces connect to make a lot more sense, which also was a nice coincidence because it helped with how I reposed everything.
Right. I love the gas cap coming up with the fuel coming out after it.
Yeah.
That's such a fun Easter egg detail.
Yeah, exactly. And that is that, right? Like that's that depth, right? If you look, there's a heads up display painted on the speedometer that shows that there's a bridge out ahead. There's little bits of freehand here and there, not a lot, but just enough to catch your eye as a little, almost like greebly, to use the old ILM term.
Yeah.
How things connect. Like I took the wheels apart and I sagged the wheels because they're not on the ground, so the shocks would drop. So I rebuilt the shocks and made new shocks for it, so that honestly, the scale model community and having access to Don Haney is such a huge impact if you're going to do any kind of vehicle. Because if you look at what the scale modelers do, the way that they add detail and add narrative to their pieces, we should be cross training with their techniques.
Yeah,
as we think about those things.
It's such a part of their community that people make third-party brass etched kits for pre-existing plastic models to replace gun barrels, replace smokestacks, like all kinds of things, just to get a more realistic material thinness and whatever it may be. So
yeah, you should, if you haven't seen Don Haney's Sherman tank, you should ask him to bring it over sometime. It is a work of art.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. So this piece took you
you asked
8 months?
So I started around Christmas, wrapped it up in March, probably about 400 plus hours in that time. So, I mean, I was putting in 40 plus hour weeks on top of a 40 plus hour a week job.
Wow. Okay.
And again, that, part of what allows this is, I am an empty nester,
right.
And it's also winter. So, what the heck else you can do in Minnesota.
Right. But you don't need to have done all of that work in 3 months. It could have been spaced out over the course of a year.
Exactly. I just had other things that I wanted to work on leading up to it, right? Other models I wanted to paint leading up to it.
That's incredible.
And then we get to Golden Demon. And how did you do with this piece?
I took a silver.
Congratulations.
My first my second year entering and my first year with a trophy and walking away with a silver.
Wow.
Could not have been happier.
What did you take away from that experience? Did you like, were there certain areas of the prep that you felt like were too much and too intense? Were the things you didn't do enough of? Like, what did you learn from that?
That's a great question. And of course, even though it's a winning piece, you still can't help but look at it with some level of critical eye.
100%.
Like, asking the question, what could I have done to gotten it to gold is a fool's errand.
Yeah.
I mean, because ultimately,
I'm on a different day with a different set of judges.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Once you're on the podium, it's a coin. 1, 2, 3 is a coin flip.
Right. It seems that way. Very often.
But, where are the areas that I could have pushed it further? One of those is definitely everything from like the bridge stanchions down is just a pretty simply executed kind of desert rubble base. Could I have pushed that further? Probably. Could I have added some more detail, some little texture things? I had a plan once upon a time to like add some little lizards and things like that to it, but just time literally just ran out.
Some graffiti.
I actually did have a whole thing where I was going to do graffiti on the bridge, and then I looked at it and like, it's too close. I don't want to fuck this up.
Sure. Yeah,
so I pulled the plug on that. But yeah, little things like that I think would have, kind of added, all the work because it's definitely, detail, a little, and then nothing, and then just kind of flat. So that would be one thing. Definitely would have started sooner. Okay. And I think there's not a Golden Demon painter alive who will not utter those words about what they could have done differently is they would have started 3 months sooner.
Yeah.
Is that realistic? I don't know. I guess I'll ask me in March of next year.
Because you're coming back.
Oh, hell yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm excited to come back.
Awesome.
One of the things about this piece, John, very kind of you to point out that it was getting a lot of buzz at the event, which was delightful. A lot of people recognize it's a very recognizable piece. One thing that with this piece, and I remember Vince asking me about this, the whole bike is on a single point of support.
Yeah, it vibrates when you pick it up. It's terrifying.
It is. It is incredibly terrifying. And it almost all went completely wrong because there's a metal peg that runs underneath the road surface, and then there's a brass rod that bends, goes up through that little wheel, and then into the body of the bike. So it's a good diameter brass rod, so it's very sturdy. Mm-hmm. And I test fit this thing a million times. It was all working great. And then the day came to glue the pin into the metal barrel, and I filled everything up with super glue, and I started putting it in, and it was about 1/8 of an inch from being fully seated, and the super glue seized.
Woo. Woo.
Yep. And this is Tuesday before I leave. So that was a terrifying moment where I had to do some pretty major surgery to get that back together. It's like, this is the whole point of the piece. Like, this is one of the stunts that was really selling this piece, right, and selling the
floating nature of
the floating nature of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I did manage to fix that. Thank God. Shout out Adam Savage and his, add baking soda to super glue tip to make it super strong. But it was a stunt with that single point of support, but I didn't want the piece to just be the gimmick. Yeah. We've all seen Golden Demon pieces with a cool gimmick that end up not going anywhere because the execution doesn't carry through at the same level. So the entire time I'm thinking the overall execution still has to be very high.
Right. Yeah. The more I see Golden Demon winners and stuff like that, the more I begin to believe that it really isn't just flawless technique that makes a Golden Demon winner. It is also some aspect of a wow factor, whether it's a stunt, a gimmick, whether it's just like leaning into Warhammer lore in an extreme or recognizable way. Like, it shouldn't feel like it should matter. Like, that's the kind of thing you feel like you should worry about with like a public vote kind of situation.
Yes.
But in a world where there are like 500 entrants, I don't know how many there are. I totally put the number out of my ass. But in a world where there are so many entries,
probably not far off,
you need to stand out in a significant way and also be flawless.
I think they said there were 2,000 models at Adepticon.
That's insane.
Right.
Yeah. So you need it. It needs to happen.
Yes.
Yeah. So no, definitely coming back next year. Not as complex of a piece. Well, we'll see. Trying to dial it back, and partially because I have an idea for a piece for 2027 that is going to make that piece look like a single squig on a round 30 mil base.
Okay.
So that
promise.
That is going to be my go hard in the paint. And
have you started already?
I actually have.
Okay. I was gonna say I was about to chastise you for not having started.
I actually have been thinking about that piece, and I've got some of the kits I need for it, and I've already been sort of playing with some of the pieces for that. But again, that's 2027 Dan's problem.
Okay.
It's far away.
That's far away. For 2026, like I said, dialing it back a little, but also still wanting to come in with, what I really feel has fallen into my place that I enjoy the most.
Yeah.
In Golden Demon painting, which really is that narrative aspect of it, that storytelling aspect of it. When I look at my Skaven versus Orc piece, or I look at my Orc jumping off the bridge piece, for me, the funnest part of that was putting together that story.
Yeah.
Here's the story I want to tell. I think the Warhammer universe is really fun. I think the best pieces that get me the most excited are when you can see a really clear story told simply. Hands down, my favorite piece at Adepticon last year was Andy Wardle's horse diorama, because it was such a powerful bit of storytelling told so simply. And it was also depicting a really quiet moment in the Warhammer universe, which is not something you see very often. So that's really the side of it that I'm excited about. And I've got, unfortunately, still too many ideas. I was hoping when I was on my trip out west, I spent a lot of time thinking through ideas and sketching up ideas, and I found myself coming out with more ideas than less, which was not the intention. So, the goal now is to really, I think I'm narrowing in on one or two. I may even try to do two pieces this year.
Okay.
I actually do have a single fig idea I'm pretty excited about. And then I have a small kind of mini Blood Bowl piece I was talking with you about a few weeks ago. That, I think could also just be a lot of fun, and also lean into some of the humor side of Warhammer that I like.
Right. I have one question that I want to ask, which will be my last question about Golden Demon for you, and it's kind of a selfish question.
Yeah.
You talked about a lot of elements of doing this piece that you enjoyed, and I'm curious, when it comes to the painting, how many of those hours, if you could break it down in percentages, was enjoyable, and how much of it was a slog? Or, you know,
I would say 87.35% enjoyable.
Okay.
And then the rest of it slog.
Okay. That's a lot higher than I would have thought, you know.
And a lot of it is because the piece that I chose, I was pushing myself on techniques. I have never done TMM at a competition level before.
Okay.
So I'm like learning as I'm doing, and I love learning new things. It's one of the things I really enjoy is has that chance to learn new stuff. So I'm learning new techniques. I really lean something I've found that I really enjoy doing and that I'm pretty good at with painting is texture and like making something look like fabric or making something look like leather. And that's what a lot of this. Now, don't get me wrong. Around hour 60 of painting black leather pants, it was starting to get a little sluggish. You can only spend so much time channeling Tom of Finland motorcycle boys before you get a little tired of it. But it was overall, though, I was actually genuinely surprised at how much I enjoyed it.
Right. I mean, it says so much that like you are painting more pieces in the future for Golden Demon, right? Like that's almost enough right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an addiction.
It is.
And you get the more that you kind of taste the fruit, the forbidden fruit of the demon, the more it get kind of not for everybody, but I think Dan and I are very similar in that way that it gets you excited. It's a matter of being able to give yourself enough of a breather and being like almost like force yourself to forget the amount of work and struggle and stress that it is. You need a break from that to then re-enter it again. And you just got to not rest on your laurels too long, and you start to be able to give yourself a long enough runway.
Well, and that emotional roller coaster is very real.
Yes.
The work of getting to it and all the energy that goes into that. And what can only be described, there's the first release of it's in the case, right? It's like, okay, it's done. I safely got it to Milwaukee. It's in the glass case now under shitty lighting.
Yeah.
And that's like one level of relief. And then you get that finalist pin.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm still in the running.
Okay, I'm still in the running. Okay, now I'm kind of coming down one more. And I can only like that moment where you're standing up there waiting to find out, they pull everybody up. The high that comes out of that is very real. Like, I'm not going to lie. It is incredibly real. And it's something that you kind of want to chase again.
Yeah.
And just that roller coaster. Like I'm not going to lie. I went up there. I got my trophy from Roman. I walked off the stage. You gave me a huge hug and I cried like a fucking baby. Because just, months and months, years, literally years of all of this kind of coming together and that coalescing in that one moment and kind of achieving what I wanted to, like that emotion was overwhelming. And it was really powerful. And
that's amazing.
I want more of it.
Yeah. I can tell you, well, now I've only won 2. Technically, neither of us have actually won a Demon, Dan, because we still don't have them yet.
Right. Yeah. They have top men working on it.
You're right. Yeah. The best and brightest British minds are trying to find how to get resin statues.
The same ones that haven't learned how to put ice in drinking water yet.
Yes. Yeah. But at this rate, maybe by next Golden Demon, we'll get our trophies. But yeah, I've only won 2. The first one, I can tell you, just much like you probably will feel the same way. It's never the same.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in a bad way.
No,
I mean,
absolutely not.
The height of that one is just like, because it feels so unobtainable. It feels ethereal that it's like it's not something that actually I could achieve. And like even looking at your piece and you're like, oh, I put so much into this, but I've put so much into the one last year too, and to feel like, you set yourself up to not get your heart broken. So when it happens, it doesn't feel surreal, and it just kind of a floodgates are opened. And so that first one, I'm so happy for you. I'm so glad. And I was really rooting for this piece because I was very much worthy, it's just like, oh my gosh, that deserves one because of just the like emotional response from people seeing it. And that's what it's all about. It's like telling an amazing story, and then the execution level that can meet that same level of storytelling. And I think that's part of the reason why I think we love the chase, is because you can, in your own mind, you could be sitting in an airplane, you could be riding a bike, you could be doing whatever, totally removed from your hobby desk, from a paintbrush, from models or anything, but you can imagine a scene. And that is, to me, the thing that I did not see coming with competition painting. I thought it was, find a cool model, paint it the best that I can, and then other people will do the same, and then, let the chips fall where they may. But the more you get into Golden Demon, I think the more your eyes are open that it is that creating that amazing moment and people saying, wow, because the idea and the execution line up, and that is where the moment is there. And then, you forever have this 3-dimensional object to show that. So absolutely.
The other thing, the one last thing I would add, just to put in a plug to anybody who wants to enter a painting competition.
Please do.
So I played a fair amount of 40K and Warhammer Fantasy before. I still do play on occasion, but really I'm focused mostly on painting now. Like it's the cliche transition, right? Like you only have so many hobby hours in a week, so where are you going to focus your time, right? But like, let's just be real. Competitive 40K, competitive Warhammer Fantasy, that is the no fun zone. The people who do that are of a certain personality type, and they're there for one reason, and their kind of social community support interaction is not always as high as it could be. That is not the case with the painting community. You go to Golden Demon and you are talking to, literally some of the best painters in the world, and they are as excited to see your piece and talk about your piece, no matter who you are. Not just, if you're a finalist contender or a great painter, they just want to see great painted models, and they want to talk to people who are passionate about model painting. And there's so much uplift and so much just positivity within this hobby of even at something as competitive and cutthroat. Let's face it, Golden Demon is weird.
Yes.
And it can be, don't get me wrong. There's bad vibes that come out every year. We all, and the clicks got to flow, so the videos always get made about it. But on the whole, I've just found it to be such an uplifting and positive community to be a part of. And anybody who loves to paint and just wants to show off their work, this is a great way to do so. And I would really encourage you to do it.
Amazing. If people want to find you and find your future works, where's the best place to look?
So I am on Instagram, which I do, I'm not super regular on it, partially because I've got a terrible photo setup. I basically put my model under a street light and tape my phone to a feral cat.
That's a nice strategy.
Yeah. But I am at Painting Rats on Instagram, because it started out as my Skaven Army blog.
Okay.
But then it's just evolved into my, where I share my stuff. And so I do post on occasion and what I'm working on. So.
Okay. Wonderful. Awesome. We'll have that link down in the description and show notes below. John, any final questions?
No, I just want to thank Dan for coming on. I know that you, as being a professional as you are, that you were like, we wanted to know what was the agenda, what was our script, what are we talking about? I need my questions ahead of time.
I was ready. I was ready to do a pull plan session.
Yes,
we were going to lean Six Sigma this motherfucker.
Yes, but we, Scott and I were like, dude, don't worry about it. I'm like, we're just gonna talk about your Golden Demon stuff or whatever. And you handled this like a champ, and we just had a really fun time.
Yeah, this was great. Thanks so much for having me on. This was
asked like
ball.
3 questions.
Yeah,
kind of just like you just nailed it.
You got
Turns out I can filibuster about miniature painting for a long time.
That is TUP in a nutshell.
So, filibustering.
Exactly. Yeah. About some things around the hobby.
Yeah.
100%. But yeah, we'll have that info linked down below if you want to follow Dan and his painting journey. Welcome to the end of the podcast. Thank you so long. Thank you so long.
So long. Farewell.
Yeah. I kind of just ran into that outro with no plan in mind. It did not work out.
Right into the wall.
Thank you for lending us your ears for these last 2 hours and 20 minutes about. We appreciate your attention span. If you enjoyed the podcast, like I said earlier, you can check out our Patreon. We have that linked down in the show notes and description below. Also down there is an area for you to get merch for TUP from our Teespring. We got cool shirts, pants. If you want to check out Dan's work, his Instagram's down there below as well. Share the podcast with your nerd friends if you appreciated it. Give us a rating wherever you're listening to podcasts. We also appreciate that as well.
I think we need some kind of filibustering merch. We need to get our heads together around how this can be made into a shirt.
Yeah.
You know, and I get maybe the goody peepees that are the true diehards that have listened all the way to this part of the podcast can help us. Let us, our hive mind come together. So down in the comments below, if you have an idea, maybe it's a phrase that uses filibustering, you know, and a visual idea, because it is... Dan, you did a great job of putting what we do here for like 2.5 hours an episode into one word.
Thank you.
It is that.
Right.
It is that. So we appreciate that. We appreciate Dan. We appreciate you sharing your journey, your story. Again, I could not be more happy for you. Congratulations.
Thank you. And same to you, John. I mean, your piece was absolutely incredible this year. Well deserved. Last year's piece was just mind-blowing. This year's piece blew that out of the water. So
no pressure, right? Either of us.
Exactly. Yeah. How do you top that? Yeah. But no, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's awesome, and we hope to have you again on here, maybe for us to decompress after next year's Golden Demon. But I'm not going to worry about that for the rest of today. Let's not worry about Golden Demon. It's still July, right?
Exactly.
But we are going to worry about the next episode of the podcast when it's 2 weeks from today. So you'll catch us then, won't they, Scott?
They will.
All right. But until then, we'll catch you on the
Flippity flop.